Conservation Commission on May 20th, 2021 to order at 7:02 p.m. We are being televised by McCam on both Verizon and Comcast. We are meeting remotely via Zoom due to state of emergency measures enacted as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic for just a short while longer. The public is encouraged to participate via the phone number on the screen or by joining us on Zoom. The information is available on the meeting agenda on the town's website. All votes will be taken by roll call, and everyone should mute themselves as much as possible to help with background noise. That would be great. Okay, so we have some senior clerk items to start us off.
We do. So I just started talking about the June 3rd meeting. I had to do legal ad, so that is absolutely a Zoom meeting. The June 17th meeting, I have to do the legal ad for that on June 1st. And I know it's before the governor actually does lift the emergency declaration. That could change, you never know. But I'm asking tonight for a motion that it will be an open meeting at the town hall in person, because I need to know that now to plan ahead for the legal ads. So,
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we have the June 17th meeting in the Middleborough Town Hall.
Second.
And not on Zoom.
Motion by Ed, second by Peter. Roll call vote. Jackie Jones, aye. Gately.
Aye.
And Medeiros.
Aye.
Ms. Dumont.
aye.
And Nancy Oker. Aye. I won't miss the roll call vote. I'll miss the Zoom. I'll miss my pajama pants. I won't miss the roll call.
So when I do the June 3rd agenda, Jackie and I talked about it earlier. I'm going to put on the bottom of the agenda election of officers. It may not happen that night. It depends on everybody. So hopefully it does. And then the first meeting in the town hall, we can start with the new chair, new vice chairs. Totally up to you guys. If it doesn't happen that night, then the 17th it'll be on that next agenda. Okay, so if you want to go to, so right off the bat in the Dropbox, you'll see 3 different articles under the updates of state and town and MACC, those updates. I know everybody's well aware of it all, what the governor wants. I haven't heard anything from MACC or MSMCP yet. I'm sure I will. So it's just giving you you don't need to open it up, Nancy. It's just giving everybody, what's happening there. Next, I have accounting. So I have one accounts payable for $9.15, and this was for the yellow plastic chain for the by the barn at the Pratt Farm, where the incident happened a few weeks ago now.
Madam Chair, Ed Medeiros, motion to approve.
Motion by Ed, do I have a second?
Melissa, second.
Second by Melissa. Roll call vote. Peter Gately. And Medeiros.
Aye.
Ms. Dumont.
Aye.
Nancy Oker.
Aye.
And Adam Carrabba.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Nan.
Next, we have accounts receivable, and this is regarding a peer review. We received the initial check. This is for an additional site visit. This is regarding 203 Summer Street. Lucas Environmental is the peer reviewer for the commission, and he gave a quote of $550. We have now received the check for $550. I just need the commission to vote in favor of the second second site visit for 203 Summer Street, and then I can deposit the check and start the process.
Madam Chair, Ed Medeiros, so moved.
Motion by Ed, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Adam. Roll call vote. Peter Gately.
Aye.
Ed Medeiros.
Aye.
Melissa Dumont,
Aye.
Nancy Wilker,
Aye.
Adam Giraldi,
Aye.
and Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. That's it for accounting. In minutes, we have April 29th and, well, we'll start with April 29th. So if anyone has had a chance to read it, I know a couple of us did.
Is that, that wasn't the knotweed pie one?
No, that's the next one.
Anyone want to make a motion regarding the April 29th minutes?
Madam Chair, Ed Maderas, I make a motion to approve the April 29th minutes as amended.
Motion by Ed, do I have a second?
Second, Nancy.
Second by Nancy. Roll call vote. Peter Gately,
Aye.
Ed Maderas,
Aye.
Melissa Dumont,
Aye.
Nancy Wilker,
Aye.
Adam Giraldi,
Aye.
Diane Stewart,
Aye.
and I forgot myself, Becky Jones. Aye.
Okay, thank you. The May 6th minutes, that is the one that Diane commented on.
Are those ready? I know that, I think there was some emails on that today.
I'm sorry, say that again?
There was some emails on that today. I was just wondering if they were ready to go.
I'm not sure. Katie, did you get the final request for change on the May 6th?
I did, and I just made Diane's changes.
Okay.
And seconded everything.
So does anyone want to make a motion to approve as amended?
Madam Chair, Ed Maderas, make a motion to approve the minutes of May 6, 2021.
Okay. I need an as amended on there.
As amended.
Thank you.
There's a motion by Ed. Do I have a second?
Second, Nancy.
By Nancy. Roll call vote. Becky Jones. Aye. Peter Gately,
Aye.
Ed Maderas,
Aye.
Melissa Dumont,
Aye.
Nancy Wilkers,
Aye.
Adam Giraldi,
Abstain.
Steve, and Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Okay. So I just realized it's 7:10. So on our agenda we had a certificate of compliance. I don't believe we have anyone on here specifically for that though.
No, we
Did
don't.
it for that?
No, and I just looked at it this afternoon, again. And the grass is coming in better, but there's still some areas that are patchy, and they didn't remove the silt from the end of the swale, so.
So we won't be voting on that anyway.
I don't believe so, no.
So we do have a 7:10 notice of intent for 425 Plymouth Street.
Madam Chair, Ed Maderas, I'd like to recuse myself on this.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Do we have everything we need to open that, Tricia?
You do.
Oh, so let's start. Yeah, no need to add. The Middleborough Conservation Commission will hold a hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, for Wetlands Protection Act for construction of a single-family house with associated septic system, grading, driveway, utilities, and landscaping within a 100-foot buffer zone of the bordering vegetated wetlands at Lot 19 Plymouth Street, map 41, Lot 1349. Hearing has been requested by D&L Realty Trust. Hearing will be held May 20th, 2021 at 7:10 p.m. remote. Okay, we have somebody on to talk about 425 Plymouth Street.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Niall Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thanks. So for the record, again, Niall Zager from Zenith, here on behalf of D&L Realty Trust for Lot 19 on Plymouth Street. It's also located on the top 425 Plymouth Street. We're proposing a single-family home with access off of Plymouth Street. The septic system itself is completely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The house is within it. It's basically just at the back of it is just at the 50-foot buffer. 49.3 feet away from wetland flag 2. And the rest of it is outside the 50-foot buffer. We have some paved driveway that is also located within it, within that buffer zone, as well as grading and landscaping within it. We are working fairly close, about 30 feet from the 30 feet from the limit of work to the wetland. So we are maintaining the 25-foot no touch that's required, and we are also providing.
Oh, if there's somebody on who's not muted when talking, that would be, it would be great if you could mute yourself. Okay, sorry, Niall.
Oh, that's okay. I was making sure I wasn't missing something. So there's we've also provided the wetland protection area conservation signs. I believe we have a total of 5 of them. They're all basically at the 50-foot buffer or within, and they're at the change of direction of the limit of work. So pretty straightforward. It is we're minimizing the amount of fill on the property by utilizing the walkout basement and utilizing the drive on the garage, which limits the impact to the buffer zone as well. The property is serviced by town water, so there's no wells to be concerned with. The wetland flags, the wetlands were flagged by Bob Gray of Sebacia, and I believe that the flags are fairly obvious in the field, as it's really kind of at a total slope. I'll let obviously anybody that has seen the site, comment on that, but it's my understanding that it was a fairly, looking at the contours of the property, it's fairly at a total slope, and it's not really, there's not really much room for error on this wetland line. Other than that, we are proposing silt sock for erosion control. And that's really about it. It's pretty straightforward. It's typical single-family lot, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay, thank you, Niall. This is a squishy one, but I do see you have some wetland protection area found on there, and I like the color coding of the line. Thank you. So now I'm going to go through everybody one by one, see if anybody has any questions. Peter?
Just one, noticing the long slope of the driveway sloping back down towards the wetlands. Is there any protection for water that's going to be flowing down there during a heavy rainstorm?
No, I mean, there's really no requirement for it under a single family lot. If the commission, sees fit, we can look at something, but realistically, there's no real requirement for it.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. You were saying that according to some particular statute or law. What was that again, please?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said if the commission sees fit, we can look at some options for that. But there's no real requirement for, for something for a single family lot of this nature.
Okay, this is something that caught my eye. I was just curious if anybody else had any comments on it. Other than that, I have no questions.
Thank you, Peter. Ed?
Is recused.
Oh, Ed recused.
I recused
Sorry.
myself on this one.
Sorry about that, Ed.
That's all right.
I forgot for a minute. Melissa?
I didn't have any questions on this lot. Sad to see the beautiful trees go, but that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Nancy?
No questions. Thanks.
Cool. Adam? Adam, are you there? I think we might have lost Adam. Diane?
I don't have any questions. I kind of echo Melissa's comments. I think that's a beautiful piece of property right there, and kind of sad to see construction go up on it. But as Niall said, most of that work is outside the buffer zone. But no questions.
So, does anybody have any thoughts about Peter's comment about the slope of the driveway? Anything we want to do there? Okay, not hearing any. What do we want to do about this one? I don't, it doesn't seem like we're missing anything. Oh, Tricia, did you have anything on this one?
So we went and looked at the site on Monday evening and looked at the wetland flags. So the wetland flags seem to be, pretty conservative. We also looked at soils. At least flags like 1 to let's see, about 7. I know we're talking about the next one, but flags, I think it was 13 and 14, or 12, 13, and 14, which go onto lot 20 and onto lot 19. I thought those could have been brought up to the total slope a little bit more. There's kind of like old fill material up near the road there. So just like a few feet. Just wanted to make note of that.
Does that need to be changed on the plan, or?
Yeah, they would have to be changed in the field and on the plan. Just have them, there's like a contour, and you can't see it on this plan. You have to go to the next plan, on the next hearing, to see where that contour is near the road.
Okay. That affects this plan.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, so lot 19, it's like a U shape. Well, it's really like a V, but it goes around, it wraps around lot 20.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see that on the overall site layout, but not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a minor plan change.
Right.
Madam Chair, just if I may, and I'm not, against making any changes, but again, these wetland flags have nothing to, I know they're shown on the plan, and if there's a change that needs to be made, we can make them, but there's no impact, even if they move, there's no impact to where we're working. So I don't know if it's really, we can absolutely do that, but I just want to make it clear that this isn't going to impact the work that we're proposing.
Okay. Does the commission have thoughts on that? I mean, we've been pretty strict lately with making sure that the plan is exactly how it needs to be. I do see that doesn't really impact the building area per se, but we do like things to be exactly as possible.
Sorry, Jackie, the flags that Tricia's talking about aren't even on this plan, so it would affect the next conversation, not this one?
I believe they're on this plan, but they're like
not
on the other side of the view. But I'll let Tricia answer that.
Yeah, it affects the other lot more just because of the proximity of where those flags are, but it is part of, some of those flags are part of lot 19, and the fact that, lot 19 has to have, I believe, some dry frontage.
She can also ask if there are any members of the public who should talk about 14 Paxton Street. Not hearing or seeing any. Okay, what does the commission want to do? Do we want to continue for flags? Or do we want to move ahead? I need a motion from somebody. Just a reminder that the language, if you need a signature, is in the Dropbox, in the agenda folder. But if we're continuing, we don't need that language.
I make a motion to continue the hearing to adjust the flags. I think that's a consistent, I agree it doesn't affect this probably so much, but it's a consistency thing that if we have a question on a flag that we've asked them to be correct.
So we have a motion by Nancy, do we have a second? Oh, can I have a second by Peter? It's close though, Diane. Roll call vote. Beck Jones, aye. Peter Gately. Melissa Dumont.
Aye.
Nancy Oakers.
Aye.
I'm gonna skip Adam because I don't think he's present. And Diane Stewart.
Aye.
So motion carries. So just that minor change, Niles, and everything else looks great. Okay.
Sorry. So when would that be continued to? I don't.
Oh yeah, we need a date.
That was in the motion.
Was it in the date? Was it in the motion?
I don't believe so.
It would be the 17th if you want the next one, Jackie.
Oh yeah, because the
What am I saying? The third.
Is the third
I'm
closed?
sorry, I'm jumping ahead, sorry.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think we had closed the third yet.
No, it's not closed. You have one new hearing and you have six continuations already.
But I think this is very minor, and I don't anticipate any.
Yeah, so June 3rd would be, this is an easy one.
So, to June 3rd. Do we need to read the motion?
No, it's fine. I'll put it in there.
So, 725, notice of intent for 425 Plymouth Street, lot 20. This is the one right next to it.
Again, for the record now, Zeta from Zenith.
And I have to read the ad.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's just taking me a minute. I usually have them all open and I didn't meet. And I'm assuming Ed is recusing himself from this one as well. Middleborough Conservation Commission will hold a hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, for construction of a single-family house for the associated septic system, creating driveway utilities and landscaping within a 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland at Lot 20, Plymouth Street, Map 41, Lot 1249. Hearing has been requested by D&L Realty Trust. Hearing will be held May 20th, 2021 at 7:25 p.m. via remote. Okay. Now you can go, Niles.
Okay, thank you. Again, very similar to the last one. The house is actually further away. We're almost 69 feet, almost 70 feet away from the at the closest point to the resource area. The septic system is completely outside the buffer zone. Driveway is within 100 to 50-foot buffer. And again, we're maintaining the 25-foot no touch, and we're providing the silk-sock as well as signs along that limit of work as part of the process. What else? We have silk-sock as our erosion control. So I think on this one, it's a little more clear as to the flags that Tricia was talking about. I believe the flags that were in question, she said, were flags 12, 13, and 14, if I remember correctly. So that, that can be looked at in the field, definitely. We can have Bob Gray meet her out there to take a look at those flags and see what, what needs to be done to move those. And we can update the plan accordingly if necessary. Again, property is serviced by town water. You can see that the driveway is accessing off of Plymouth Street, basically just inside the 100-foot buffer, and then it goes to the house. We're proposing a walkout basement as well as a drive under the garage to minimize grading, just like we were on the last one. Other than that, on this one, there is a stream, perennial stream that we scaled from the USGS map. You can see it on, I guess it would be if you want to look at the left, it's the left side, or it would be the south of the property. It's in blue. There's a 200-foot riparian zone. We're completely outside of it with our work, but I just wanted to make mention of that it is on our plan. Other than that, pretty straightforward again. I think very similar. Less impact for the resource area as far as the house is concerned. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Thank you, Niles. Tricia, just the same thing with this, with the flag.
Yes. And what about the perennial stream again, Niles? I'm sorry.
So there's a perennial stream to the south of the property, way off the south, on the top of our property completely. You can see the blue dashed line to the south.
Yep.
That's 200. That's a 200 foot outer riparian zone. And you know, we're outside of that completely.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so the red denotes the 25 foot, the brown donates, shows the 50 foot, and the green shows the 100 foot, and then you got the blue and the dashed blue for the, for that riparian, that 200 foot outer riparian zone.
Okay, anything else, Richard?
No.
So let's go to Peter.
I have no questions.
No right on this one. Melissa?
No questions, more comments. I find that these plans are very easy to read, and I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, Miles. Again, this is a heartbreaking piece of property to see put into the state it's going to be in, but nothing I can do about that. The soil samples in all the spots that we tried were consistent, and I had just put down 2 flags, 12 and 13, but you guys already know that, so that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Nancy?
No questions, so thanks for the signs on the maps.
Adam, are you back?
Yes, I apologize. Work. I don't really, honestly, I didn't see most of this proposal, so I'm just going to abstain from whatever's happening.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. Diane?
No questions. I just want to comment that there's a lot of knotweed on that property, which I feel like follows up well to my suggestion of a bake-off, a knotweed bake-off in town. But yeah, no questions about the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. So, pretty straightforward. Nothing is really needed with any of the plans or anything, just those wetland flags. Also, is there any member of the public that wishes to talk about 425 Plymouth Street, Lot 20? Not hearing or seeing any. What is the wish of the commission? What do we want to do?
My name's Chuck.
Oh, sorry. Is somebody from the public?
Yes. Hi. Dan Geeson, Jeffrey. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. If I may, I live at 424 Plymouth Street, right across the street from all this.
Okay.
And I just wanted to, I'm very familiar with this wetlands and all of the property around here. And not so much on all the legalities and everything, but I just wanted to just make note that that perennial stream in that wetlands doesn't just exist right at that spot behind those 2 properties, those 2 lots, but that is a really important, huge filter, and it goes into the Nemasket River just down below those properties, which it comes up from the swamp, which is up behind the KOA and up in that area on the other side of Precinct Street. And as the waters rise and fall, that stream hasn't dried up in like at least 7 years that I can remember. I can remember it being dry in the summer at times since I've lived here, but that stream hasn't dried up in like 7 years, and it's flowed pretty steady the whole time. And that is an actually important water filter from the swamp up above and all the water that goes into the field behind our house and then across the street and then down into that stream and then down into the river down below. And I just wanted to, from a conservation point of view, the more that you strip away from the perimeter of all those little wetlands that we have here, the more long-term impact that I think that it's going to have on the river and on the environment in this area. And it's just like a natural filter, and that's what that whole thing serves as. It filters all the water that runs off the street up there, and then from up in the swamp that comes down to the overflow. It's a balanced thing. And I just, you know, what is the impact going to be long-term on having someone's yard, their cared-for landscape, lawn chemicals, all the other stuff that go along with having a house right next to that kind of an area. I think it's a very sensitive area, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about that. You know, someone mentioned that the perennial stream ran through, but it was kind of brushed over a little bit. It seems to me like the attention, I would like to hear more what kind of attention or what kind of thought was put into that part of the planning. Maybe that's my question.
Okay, so I'm going to let our conservation agent, Tricia, and Miles talk about that, but I just want to say on behalf of the commission, we do everything that we can to protect the wetlands. That's our purpose here.
Yeah.
But we're limited by the law. There's only so much that we can approve or deny. And if we deny things, then they go to DEP, and we don't have as much local control over it in the long run. So I just wanted to state that, because as you get, if you were on when Melissa was talking, majority of us have a hard time with the destruction of trees and things like that, but in a lot of ways our hands are tied.
Well, you know, I'm not like a tree hugger or anything of that nature. I do have a little bit of concern, though, for
very valid concern.
Everything that's been, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to let our conservation agent talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
She can probably explain it better than I can.
Okay, good evening. I am Tricia, and so under the Wetlands Protection Act, when somebody is proposing work within 100 feet of a wetland, the buffer zone is an area that they can propose work, but that's why they're before us, because then they have to, you know, file paperwork and it gets reviewed in this public forum. And likewise with any work near a perennial river or stream, if it's within 200 feet of that, they would be required to file an application with conservation. All the work is staying outside the 200 foot from that perennial river. And although there is work in the buffer zone, you know, they have to protect the wetland as they do construction. They're going to have to put up erosion controls, which are going to be like these filter, they call them filter tubes too. So they'll be around the perimeter of the limit of work where they end up clearing the trees. And so, you know, when things are unstable, that'll be protected. And we're going to certainly be doing inspections during the construction. Before they get the building permit, we make sure that they're, you know, if they do get an order of conditions, that it's recorded at the Registry of Deeds. You know, and I meet with the contractor on site to make sure that they have everything staked out, that the limit of work is staked out, so they don't cut more trees than they're, you know, supposed to per the plan. So, you know, we do try to do as much as we can, and unfortunately, you know, we can't control what people use on their property, and this permit's only good for 3 years. So, you know, obviously if somebody is, you know, they're taking care of their lawn and things, we would hope that they would use some natural methods to do that. But that, you know, isn't really in our purview entirely under the Wetlands Protection Act. You know, we can say that in the orders of conditions. We can say, you know, no fertilizers or pesticides, but how do you police that, you know, once it's on the document? We just try to educate people and advise them going forward.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, Tricia. Miles, did you want to say anything, or?
I think Tricia covered it perfectly.
Jackie, I'd like to jump in.
You want to add something, Adam?
Yeah, and I honestly, as I said, I don't really know everything was happening this. I had a work call, but this is, soil, impacts is really a huge part of what I do for work. So, soil is very filtering, and, even in higher contaminants, like, we obviously are concerned about, some, nitrogen and other things that get into the, resource from fertilizers and stuff that can throw off the balance, but, it seems like that's a good distance away, 200 feet to the riverfront. So that's a good distance for your filtration. And you will still get the filtration, and that's exactly what would happen with that soil. Now, obviously, if somebody's very liberal with it, it would go further, you'd be just more concentrated, but that distance that we're talking about here is completely adequate for the natural filtration of soils to filter out any applied chemicals for that, obviously if they're done within reason. So definitely it's a good concern to have, and I'm glad that I can almost speak for the entire commission to say that we're thankful that there are other people in the town that are aware of this and are looking out for the best interest and notifying us when these things come up. And it does help us, evaluate it from a different perspective, because a lot of times we don't know some of the information that the people who live in that area are more familiar with. So we always encourage any of the residents to, feel free to speak up, and if there's something that you're not familiar with, we're happy to explain it. And Tricia does a great job really meeting with the residents and going over things. So definitely your concern is appreciated, but from my perspective on this, it seems like there's a good buffer between the proposed work and the resource that would be impacted by lawn care stuff. And that's just my 2 cents I wanted to add.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Melissa, did you have something too?
Yeah. I just want to say, kind of to mimic what Adam said, I appreciate the abutters' concerns, and this is the perfect place to bring them up. I am a tree hugger. With my heart, lots of beautiful, gigantic trees on that property. The wetlands, we tried several spots, checking the soil samples. Tricia was really using that auger, and everything seemed fine. It wasn't in the wetland zone. We looked at the plant life. There's jewelweed and other plants that could go in either wetland or dry land, but everywhere we checked it, it was in an okay spot. But this does break my heart, and I totally sympathize with the neighbor, and I appreciate them coming to the meeting tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa, and Adam. Well said, and Tricia too. And I just want to echo both of them and say thank you so much for voicing your concerns and caring about the wetlands. We care too. There's only so much we can do.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? 420, we're on lot 420. 425 Plymouth Street, lot 20. Okay. Not hearing or seeing anybody else. I think we need to continue for the wetland flags. Melissa?
There's a motion to continue notice of intent for 425 Plymouth Street, lot 20, SE 220-1491 to June 3rd.
Okay, so we have a motion by Melissa. Do we have a second?
Second, Yancy.
Roll call vote. Jackie Jones, Peter Gately.
Aye.
Melissa Dumont.
Aye.
Nancy Okers.
Aye.
Adam, you're still abstaining, correct?
I can vote to approve the continuation.
Okay.
So
aye. And Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Okay, so, we'll talk about this again on June 3rd. So, now then we have 740, notice of intent for East Street. Do you have everything you need for this hearing? Melissa or Tricia?
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Middleborough Conservation Commission will hold a hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, for construction of a single-family house with associated septic system, well, grading, driveway, utilities, and landscaping within a 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland at Lot 1, East Street, Map 104, Lot 295 and 2011. Hearing has been requested by Old Beach Investments LLC. Hearing will be held May 20th, 2021 at 7:40 p.m. here in Moat. Okay, there's someone here to talk about East Street.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Again, for the record, now Zeta Fusina. So again, single-family home, construction of a single-family home with associated septic system. The wetland line that you see before you was just recently approved under an ORAD by your commission. So the line that you see was approved, so you know what you're looking at is accurate. We have been noting the 25-foot buffer in red, the 50-foot buffer in blue, and the 100-foot buffer in green, to make it easier to see. The limit of work is denoted as a true line and a silk saw, and we are proposing the conservation signs as well along that limit of work to meet all the policies that we've taken into place recently. The house is approximately just over 50 feet, it's about 52 feet away from the resource area, and the driveway is about 27 feet from the resource area. We are proposing a drive-under garage and a walkout basement in order to minimize the amount of fill that's provided for impact. And the well that is proposed is shown so far back because there's a requirement in the town of Middleborough by the Board of Health that if you have a perk rate of 5 minutes an inch or less, you have to be 200 feet, not the typical 100 feet. So that's why there's more impact than you would normally see in that rear of the property. Other than that, pretty straightforward. It's standard single-family law, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Can I ask? Okay. So, Peter?
No questions at this time.
Okay. Melissa?
A couple questions. We saw the polka dotted flags on the site visit, or the limit of clearing. I was wondering about the striped flags. Were they for elevation?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
There was some striped orange and white flags everywhere. Were those spots of elevation change?
Yeah, so I believe what happens is when the surveyors go out there, because when you're on larger sites, it's easy to lose your bearing and lose where you've actually taken elevation shots. They'll flag those spots in order to be able to keep track of where they've gone. So it's just a tracking, mechanism for them.
I can understand it. It was a bit confusing the way it was all laid out. Just getting there was confusing because you have that intersection, but we saw the spray paint on the ground, so that helped. I think Tricia noted that the house was not staked.
Okay, we had the limit of work staked and we had the well staked. I thought that would be enough, but if we need more, then I guess we can do that.
And that was all that I had for this particular property. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Nancy?
I had had some concerns about the driveway being right alongside the 25-foot buffer like that. I mean, it's easy enough, not just snow plowing or whatever, but you have people over parking on the side of your driveway for a party, whatever. I would like a fence alongside the driveway to really mark that that's the 25-foot buffer. So close.
Miles, did you wanna?
I mean, that's something we can do, but again, we're putting the signage, like, that's typically been required, so, I mean, if you tell me that's what you need, then I just want to make sure I'm clear as to when it's going to be needed and when it's not going to be needed, so if you let me know, I will.
We've asked for it before when the driveways do run just exactly along the 25-foot buffer, to prevent people just driving over. It's so easy to drive over to the side. That's what I'm thinking.
And we do have precedents for that, Nancy. Adam.
I don't really have any questions. I mean, it's a tight setup there. The driveway thing doesn't really bother me too much because it looks like there's a tree line right along it. And it's still buffer zone and there's no real work in it. It's not really something that we can make any jurisdiction on if it's just proposed like that. Obviously, if the applicant wants to put up some, split rail fences with little signs along it or something like that, that's great. But it looks like the tree line's right along there, and it kind of looks like it dips off. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like it dips off a bit. But other than that, I really didn't have any comments or requests to change anything.
Thank you, Adam. Diane?
So I think something worth mentioning is it is a very tight site close to the wetland line, and there are a ton of mosquitoes out there. This was the first site we went to on Monday night, and I have at least a dozen mosquito bites from being out there, and when we went to the Plymouth Street site, there were no mosquitoes. And it just, every year or two, we get somebody that comes in that purchased a house in the last few years on a tight to the wetland site like this, and they come in and they talk about all the mosquitoes they have, and they want to fill in the wetlands. And all Trisha can usually tell them is, mosquito dunks or something like that. So I don't know that it's something we can do anything about or deny the project based on that, but I don't know if the applicant is maybe willing to put up bat boxes, or I think that's going to be a problem with future owners of this house and the Conservation Commission. The owners in a couple of years are going to come to the Conservation Commission long after, the current owner sells it. So I don't know if Trisha had any, or Phyllis had any comments on that, or other commissioners, or Niles.
It's not something that we can regulate, mosquitoes, directly. I do encourage people to, get bat boxes or use the mosquito dunks, which don't hurt any other wildlife in wet areas. Or, mosquito control can sometimes assist with, if there's stagnant water, there's a stream that's blocked or something, they are able to do that without a permit.
I just know we already have so many problems with Tripoli. You've had deaths in this area because of that. And so the mosquito issue is a very sensitive issue, especially in this town.
That's more of a Board of Health issue.
Niles, I don't know if your client would be willing to put up bat boxes as part of this on the property, a couple of them.
Is that something you need me to revise the plan to show, or how would you want to do that?
I think maybe for something like that, we could do a condition. We wouldn't necessarily need to know the location or inspect them later, or.
Right. Mosquitoes are really regulated under the Board of Health, and the Health Department and Department of Public Health with the state. We can suggest it, in the buffer zone, but anything outside the buffer zone, we can't really tell them what to do. I think most of this is in the buffer, but I think it's a great idea, but I think it's, can only be a suggestion. We can't require somebody to do that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Adam.
Niles, is this for a specific person or family that's already purchased and is building a particular lot, or is this just proposed for a builder that's going to be then selling it?
This is proposed for a builder that's going to be selling it.
Right.
Thank you, Adam. I'm just going to say, it's definitely worth mentioning and having on the record for any potential buyers in the future. Ed, are you back on this one?
I'm back.
Okay. Did you have any questions or comments about this one?
No, I guess I'd like to give the applicant some, he asked for some thought. On Cedar Street, I believe the commission asked for a post and rail fence. If anything, if the driveway was within 30 feet of the wetlands line, so that if it's within 30 feet, it should be a couple of feet off the edge of the driveway, but no closer than 27 feet from the wetlands line. In this particular case, I guess to give them some idea, I think the post and rail fence would probably go from the layout of each street up around 80 feet, which would be eight lengths up on that driveway. That would get him away from the 25-foot no touch. But generally, for some idea, if you're within 30 feet, especially the driveway, it probably should be a silt fence, a post and rail fence to keep both the people and hopefully the snow removal to that limit. So that was my only comment. The lot is certainly tight, but it makes all our rules and regulations and is by the law, but I believe a post and rail fence would be good from the layout to 80 feet up the driveway.
I think we would have to go at 20, Madam Chair, I think we would have to go to 26 feet in order to make it work.
It does look very tight here.
That's correct.
Yep. I guess, and I understand that, and 26 would be fine where you have to do 26, but if you can get a 27, it would be much better to do that.
And that's understood. There are spots where we can get 27 up in the front, by the way out. Just basically across from the garage, in a small area there. That we probably have to go to 26, and then we can flare out to 27 again. 27 past the house, so that's doable.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
That's the only comment I have.
sorry.
Thank you, Ed. Adam?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on the snow plowing situation. Just looking at that driveway, there's not really anywhere that you'd be able to put like snow piles or anything along that side. Really, it would just be most likely that the snow gets pushed off towards that split rail side, but this isn't a commercial lot, this is just a residence. There's not really any risks to that there. The number of, let's say, contaminants from that would be very minimal. Usually our concerns with snow piles and things like that is with debris, leaking cars in parking lots, contaminating snow, things like that. You really don't have those kinds of concerns with driveways like this for family houses. But I also, that's what I was saying, Niles, earlier, like a post and rail fence type of thing along the edge of the driveway would probably look nice too, just running along the side, and that's not something that would be impacted by snow plowing either. The snow runs right through it.
That's understood. I'm actually just confirming with my client right now to see if they're okay with the split rail fence. Yeah, and they are.
Madam Chair? Just one other thing. When it's snows out there and that driveway is pretty flat with the rest of the contours, you know, especially toward the front. When you're plowing snow and there's 6 inches of snow, you can't even find the edge of the driveway. So if someone doesn't put markers there, at least the post-no fence would give them a demarcation. I agree, sometimes we want them to put where they're going to stockpile the snow, but I think there's only one place, which is right at the end of the driveway. But it stops someone from getting halfway up the driveway and just trying to push it off the side because they'll knock the fence over. So I think that was the theory on Cedar Street when I had done it. That's it.
Okay, and you said, Niles, you said your client was okay with the split rail fence?
That is correct.
I think we,
Is he okay with that boxes?
okay.
Hold on, he's responding.
Please let him know that we appreciate his willingness to work with us on that.
He'd rather leave that up to the homeowner, honestly. Just, you know, for him to be putting those out there, they might not like them and then rip them down. So I'd rather make it something that the homeowner would be, you know, willing to do.
I think they're gonna like them more than mosquitoes.
So I think we're all agreed on the split rail fence. How do we want to handle that? Generally, most of the time, it's something that we like to have on a plan so that when it gets built, it doesn't get missed.
Madam Chair,
Peter?
it does say they're going to have a split rail fence at the top of the drawing, just beyond below the cesspool, or the septic tank rather.
Trying to zoom on Nancy's screen, that doesn't work. Let me look. Where's the split rail fence?
It actually, he's right, I did have a note up there. This is a carryover from another plan. You do have,
Keep going, Nancy.
top right, if you go up a little bit further up.
Keep going.
Right
There we
there.
go.
Right there.
Yeah, I apologize. I actually forgot that note was there. So it says, so socket to be replaced with split rail fence once all areas are stabilized within the 50-foot buffer zone. Also, conservation signs are to be placed along the split rail fence, minimum of 5 signs.
I think that note might actually work in the favor of,
That's something that we've used in the past and it's generally been accepted by the commission. I was looking for it and nice catch, Peter. I couldn't see it, so good catch. Thank you.
Peter. Is that acceptable to the commission? Does anybody have any objections to that? Also, is there any members of the public for East Street before we get any farther?
Oh, I sent a letter in on Benson's Pond Incorporated, near the butter.
Can you state your name for the record?
Carolyn Gilmore.
I'm sorry, it cut out for just a second.
Carolyn Gilmore, Benson's Pond Incorporated.
Oh, thank you. And what did you want to tell the commission tonight?
So I sent a letter in. Do you want me to read it? You have it, so
I can read it if you want, or
Okay,
you can read
okay.
it. Whatever.
Okay. Go ahead, you read it.
Okay. So this is to Jacqueline Jones, Chair, Middleborough Conservation Commission, dated May 17th, 2021, about the NOI for East Street, Lot 1, Map 104, Lot 294, and 2011. Dear Ms. Jones, we appreciate the Commission's abutters notification regarding this hearing on the proposed construction within the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. Benson's Pond Incorporated is a family-owned cranberry producer abutting the above referenced lot. The bog was constructed in the 1930s and has been owned and operated by the Gilmore family since 1985. Our water control structures adjacent to Lot 1 are an essential component to successful cranberry production and influence the water table in the associated wetlands. From time to time during the year, we raise the water level as part of our flood/flood release management practices. If we experience repeated and extended drought events, as in 2020, which culminated in a D-3 extreme drought at harvest, it may become necessary to increase the size and duration of our water impoundment which in turn will influence the height of the water table in the bordering wetlands. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Carolyn Gilmore, Benson's Pond Incorporated. And there is an attachment, it's the U.S. Drought Monitor, Massachusetts, dated September 22nd, 2020. And that's what I have here.
Was that in communications, Trisha, or was that?
This is for, it wouldn't be in communications, it would be with this, it's with this file, but I don't believe it's in Dropbox, so I apologize for that.
Okay. So did you want to add anything to that, Carolyn?
No, I just wanted to let them know what living next to a cranberry grower is like.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. It's very important for whoever purchases that property to know that. Thank you for writing that letter. Anyone else from the public?
Madam Chair?
What?
If I may, just to the letter that was just read, is that when you do a perk test, they use the modeling in the ground, which is generally the highest water table. They don't necessarily go by the water that is found at the time. So I think that whether you pick the water table up or down for cranberry bogs, that the modeling, which is the highest level it's going to be, is going to be the level that they use. So I think that, I understand, bringing or taking down the water table, but the rust layer still stays in the same place. So I think that, they probably are correct with the rust layer, that it is the water table generally.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. Any other commissioners have any other questions or concerns? Anyone from the public? Trisha, anybody?
Madam Chair, Maderas, do we have an SC number?
We should. Do you have that, Trisha?
Yes, it is SE 220 1489.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Madam Chair, Maderas, I make a motion to close the hearing and vote to do a standard order of conditions with one special condition. Although it is on the plan, I'd like to restate that there shall be a post and rail fence going from the layout of the street up the driveway 80 feet. And that motion is made by in conjunction with the signatures that are made in accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 110G, and pursuant to Middleborough Conservation Commission electronic signature authorization vote dated May 1st, 2020, for 52695, page 344, Plymouth County Registry of Deeds.
Ed, do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Peter. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Geatley?
Yes.
Got an aye, Peter, I'm sorry. Got a background
Aye.
noise.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. I think that there's some background noise going on. Ed, Maderas?
Aye.
Melissa Dumont?
Aye.
Nancy Opers?
Aye.
Adam Giraldi?
Aye.
Diane Stewart?
Aye.
So we have, the ayes have it with one nay from Diane Stewart. So it passes. You know what to do next time. Contact the office. Okay, are you with us for any more hearings, or is this your last one?
I am. I'm here at Powell Center Street as well.
Okay. Who are next? So next we're on to continuations. So we have continuation of notice of intent for Old Center Street. Also Miles.
Oh, it's this one's not me. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize.
Not Old Center Street, wrong one. Where are we at with this one, Tricia?
This is gonna be Jason Youngquist, and I did let him in. I don't know if he's here still, but there he is.
How you doing? Jason Youngquist from Outback Engineering. The revised plan was submitted a week or so ago. We had a couple comments from our last hearing. Wanted a couple changes to the plan. We added the 50-foot buffer, labeled the driveway as being paved. We proposed some conservation signs along the limit of work. I think that was about it.
Thank you, Jason. Let's go through everybody one by one, just to check the boxes. Peter?
I'll pass for the time being. I was looking at the wrong map, so give me a few minutes here, please.
Also, you guys have to accept the revised plans into the record.
Oh, thank you for that, Tricia. Do you have a date?
It is, the revision date is 5/7/2021.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to accept into the record revised plans dated 5/7/2021?
So moved.
Madam Chair, would you?
Oh, I have a motion by Melissa and a second by Ed. We'll do a roll call vote. Peter Gately?
Aye.
Ed Vidaris?
Aye.
Melissa Dumont?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
Adam Gately? Adam Giraldi, not Gately. Sorry about that. Adam,
Already did I.
Diane Stewart?
Aye.
And Jackie Jones, aye. Sorry about that. Okay. So,
Long night.
that's the names. Okay, where were we? So Peter had passed. Ed?
No real, I guess just a comment that this appears to be a blocktopping operation going in a residential zone. They're already advertising it out at the street. So I'd like to make sure that they're not bringing product in, certainly with a 100-foot buffer zone or in the 200-foot riverfront area. So, I mean, that would be a comment, that are they using it for a blacktop area, or, I mean, they're advertising it out front already.
No, this is his home. And that's his business, but he's not running the business out of here. This is gonna be his home.
Okay, so he's not bringing any blacktop trucks home with him?
Just to pave the driveway.
Okay, so.
And this is a residence district. It's zoned Residence A, so if he was to do a business out of here, he would have to go before the ZBA and get his, special permit to run his business out of there.
Would he need a
Okay.
permit with the ZBA for the sign?
I haven't seen the sign, so if it's a certain size, then yes, it would.
I guess I have concerns because he is so close to the wetlands. I don't want the blacktop trucks to be a regular thing there. So I think we should put that in as a special condition.
Okay, I would strongly support that as a condition as well.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite there yet with closing the hearing and all that.
Okay.
This is just for accepting the plan.
Did we accept the plan already?
You guys were in the...
We did.
In roll call. You were in roll call when Ed made his comment, so...
I thought we had finished roll call.
I don't think so. I
We
think...
did, it was,
Yeah.
we did.
Okay.
We did finish roll call, and then Peter went to make a comment, and then I made a comment.
Yeah, then we went back to comments.
Yeah,
Yeah, Diane, I called on you, right? You're last on my list. Yep. Yeah, so we had finished that vote. Anything else, Ed?
No, that's it.
Okay, Melissa?
That was a good question, Ed, because the concern from the abutters was about Phil coming in and situations coming in, that was from April 29th, so if there was a business coming in, that would have been a concern, obviously, of theirs, but if that's not happening, then I don't have any questions about the plans. But that was a good point that Ed made. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. Adam? Oh, sorry, Nancy. Then Adam.
I don't really have anything to add. I agree with Ed on the site visit. The sign is up for the business right at the edge of the street. It's a very clear sign. It's an asphalt company, so I have the same concern.
Thank you, Nancy. Adam?
I don't really have any concerns from the wetland standpoint. I think they were all generally addressed. Sounds like they're stating that they're not going to be bringing trucks in or storing them within the area, but I'd be in support of creating a special condition on the order of conditions to state that, because asphalt trucks can do a number on the resource.
Thank you, Adam. Diane?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Tricia, is there anything outstanding on this one?
No, we have the DEP number. It is SE 220-1483, and we have the revised plan that you accepted. And I guess just ask if there's any questions from the public.
Okay. Anyone from the public that wishes to talk about? And I lost the address. I'm sorry about that.
It's Old Center Street.
Thank you. Anyone from the public that wishes to talk about Old Center Street? Okay. Not seeing or hearing anybody. Melissa?
One more thing I noticed from meeting minutes is that Ed wanted to put a special condition in that the trucks need to stay out of the 100-foot buffer and the 200-foot riverfront area. That was on April 29th. Ed was concerned about that.
That's good to know, just to have that clarification. Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion that includes that special condition?
Madam Chair?
Okay.
I'd make a motion to close the hearing and to order a standard order of conditions with one special condition, that there be not a business run out of the dwelling, that no trucks be brought home with asphalt on them, and that any material brought into the 100-foot or the 200-foot, the 100-foot buffer zone or the 200-foot riverfront area has to be approved by the Conservation Commission other than what's on this plan.
Okay. And then the language.
Oh, actually, you're gonna hang on 1 minute. It's I just had to run downstairs. We need to run back upstairs for a minute.
Okay. Is it okay if I read it?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. That's certainly okay. Go ahead.
I had that memorized.
In conjunction with the city.
I got 5 guys still working, so.
In conjunction with the signatures that are made in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 110G, in pursuant to the Middleborough Conservation Commission electronic signatures authorization vote dated May 1st, 2020, book 52695, page 344 at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. So does anyone want to make?
I add that to my motion.
Thank you, Ed. Does anyone want to?
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a amended motion, second by Diane. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately? I said it right this time, right? Peter Gately? Is this Peter? Medeiros,
Aye.
Melissa Gumont,
Aye.
Nancy Okers,
Aye.
Adam Garaldi,
Aye.
Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Once again, nobody sees Peter, right? Okay, so we're gonna call it an abstention from Peter, but the ayes have it. Thank you, Jason. Contact the office for the next steps.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Okay. So next up we have, continuation of notice of intent for, continuation of ANRAD for 308 Old Center Street. And this one I think is actually Lois. So if you're good to go.
For the record, again, I'm Isaiah from Zenith Consulting Engineers. So I believe, and I'll let Tricia speak on this as well, obviously, but the consultant went out to the site, had very minor changes to the plan, to the flags. There was a couple flags that were missing, I guess, out in the field at the time. And there were, I believe they were flags 127 and 130, I believe. And then there were some additional flags hung in the rear. I guess it would be the northeast portion of the property, were flagged off the property, just because they were concerned about the impact of buffer zone onto the property. So flags 3-100 through 3-92 were added to the plan. It's up to the northeast portion of the project. Keep going up, right up in there, yes. So those flags were added. This isn't the most current plan. I emailed the most current plan the other day. So there should be a new plan of record.
So we need to vote that in.
The plan, yep, the plan of record is 5/18/21. Yep, that's it.
Does anyone want to make a motion to accept into the record revised plans dated 5/18/2021?
So moved.
Second.
Is that Adam first?
Yep.
And then Nancy?
Sure, second.
Okay. So motion by Adam, second by Nancy. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately, are you back?
I'm back, but I missed half of what was said, so I'm gonna pass.
Okay. We're on a new hearing now, and we're just accepting plans into the record. Does that make a difference for you?
Okay, in that case I can handle it.
Okay.
Aye.
So, and Medeiros?
Aye.
Melissa Gumont?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
Adam Garaldi?
Aye.
And Diane Stewart?
Aye.
Okay, so we have revised plans and updated information. I'm gonna go Tricia first. Where are we at with this one?
So, you also should accept the peer review report into the record.
Okay.
Hold on one second, which is by Lucas Environmental, and it is dated April 13th. I don't know if you ever accepted this into the record before. That's why I think I had a note to do that.
Okay.
It's dated April 13th, 2021.
Let's do that just to be on the safe side. Anyone want to make a motion to accept into the record peer review from Lucas Environmental dated April 13th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Diane, second by Ed. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately?
Aye.
Ed Medeiros?
Aye.
Melissa Gumont?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
Adam Garaldi?
Aye.
And Diane Stewart?
Aye.
Okay.
There also is an environmental site assessment report that came in. It is, hold on a second. It's actually in the Dropbox, and I believe it's dated April 20th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to take that into the record, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is it environmental site report? Is that?
I'll make a motion, Jackie.
Thank you, Adam.
So I'd make a motion to accept into the record the Phase 1 and Phase 2 Environmental Property Assessment Report dated April 20th, 2021, which is a revised version of the previous Environmental Property Assessment Report that was submitted.
Okay, so we have a motion by Adam. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ed Maderas.
Oh, I have Diane beat you by a second, Ed. Motion by Adam, second by Diane. Roll call vote. Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately. Ed Maderas.
Aye.
Melissa Blunt.
Aye.
Nancy Oakers.
Aye.
Adam Giraldi.
Aye.
Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Great. Is there anything else, Tricia?
No, those are all the items accepted, and now you can go through everybody.
Due to the nature of this one, I think we're going to go to Adam first. Our expert on this type of stuff. So, Adam.
Careful throwing that word around.
Sorry. I would say you're our most experienced in this area. Is that better?
Most likely.
Yeah.
So I'd reviewed this report previously. The previous report that was submitted, I came up with some concerns that I thought should be addressed and or further investigated. Some of those concerns are basically the fact that there's the presence of a floor drain that had not been investigated, the presence of a on-site septic system that had not been investigated, and then just a couple other just kind of clean up things like identifying a monitoring well, a drinking water well as a monitoring well, a couple of those little things. So I went through the revised report, and we got some basically good news. Ultimately, the end result is what we like to see. It looks like the concerns or potential concerns were basically mitigated by the results of additional environmental assessment. And I'll just go rip right through it. Section 1.4.10, transformers that were identified on site. The transformer oil was sampled and submitted for analysis of presence of PCBs. No PCBs were identified in the transformer oil, which is a very good thing. One thing to note is that PCBs were detected on the site, but they were detected at levels that were below the reportable concentrations for the Mass DEP. And so there may have been historic PCBs for numerous different reasons, but only I think one or two of the locations actually identified them, and there were not exceedances. So although it's a contaminant, it's not at any level that would need to be reported or mitigated under the Mass DEP's MCP. As I said, there's a floor drain that was previously identified. Section 1.4.11 identified that the floor drains there was two floor drains they actually identified. Originally reported was just one, I believe, but this modified report identified a second. The floor drains were connected to a tight tank. The tight tank was removed in March of 2021. Section 1.4.19, one test pit was advanced adjacent to the floor drain tight tank, and one test pit was advanced at the on-site septic soil absorption system, basically where the leaching field would be. There was no evidence of impacts at the March 2021 floor drain and septic system test pit investigation. Lab results came back near or below detection limits, so that's another good sign. Additional assessments that had been done back in August of 2020, I had already reviewed this, but just to reiterate, no VOCs or VPH were detected in soil. EPH metals, PCBs were ID'd in soil, so they were detected, but they were not above any of the reportable concentrations for the Mass DEP. No VOCs, VPH, EPH, or PCBs were detected in groundwater. Again, that's a good thing with the PCB thing. And then metals were detected in groundwater, but that's standard. And again, no concentrations of any of the compounds were detected above the GW1 standards. for the site. So that's all good stuff. Then in the last section here, 1.4.22 and 23, none of the VPH or no VPH or VOCs were detected above reporting limits in soil, and detected concentrations of EPH did not exceed the MSTP reportable concentrations for that investigation around the tight tank and the septic system. So that's all good. One other thing which was really good to see, which I didn't specifically ask for, but they did go forward and do additional assessment with monitoring well groundwater flow direction. They identified the groundwater flow direction, which is good to help make sure that the locations of any soil borings and monitoring wells or test pits were done in the correct location and down gradient of any potential sources of contamination. And so my evaluation of that is that they were all done in correct locations that would lead to a correct assessment for the conditions of the property. So all in all, it's what we wanted to see, and I'm appreciative that the property owner and the consultant went out and did some further investigation and did it in compliance with what I would want to see out there. So that's my assessment of the revised report.
Thank you very much for that, Adam. That was very thorough and helpful. Okay. Let's go back to Peter. Peter, did we lose you again?
No. Well, just my train of thought for a moment there. No questions. No, I defer to Adam on all that.
Ed?
No, I have no questions. I think that we're here to delineate a line. I think actually the report that was given would be more for once they start deciding what to use, but the only thing they're in here asking us for is the resource area line delineation. I think as long as our consultant said that's okay, I'm all set with it.
Thank you, Ed.
That's it.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you, Adam, for all that. This was very educational, this particular site for me. On March 18th, it was noted by our agent that there were 4 wetland areas that were impacted. That 12-inch wall were put up at the limit of work, and that the areas will be restored. Has that happened? Has anyone tried to fix these areas that were impacted when we went on a site visit?
That would be a question for Niles or the developers on there, and it's just that he can fix himself.
It was my agreement with Tricia that no more work would be done until we filed a after-the-fact notice of intent. So she allowed us to continue with the demolition of the building and clean up the work area right behind the building. Those are outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, but we did not go back and do any further work near the wetlands because we were going to file a after-the-fact notice of intent once the wetland line was approved.
That's correct. Yeah, so that restoration will happen under that after the fact notice of intent.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Marcus, if you could just say your name for the record.
Marcus Baptiste with Old Beach Investments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set, Melissa?
Yep, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Nancy?
No questions.
Adam? Oh, we already went to Adam.
I had some other comments. That was just about the assessment.
Okay.
There was one other thing that I forgot. They did find a diesel AST on site, which is above ground storage tank, and they reported that they had pumped it out. It still did contain some materials, so that likely means that there was no release to the ground. I'm not even really sure where it was. It wasn't identified on the plan that I could see. So it may have been on concrete, it really wasn't depicted, but the presence of materials in it likely leads to the fact that it did not have a release. So that's, I mean, not guaranteed, but likely the case. The other question basically is, Patricia, I did not get a chance to review the peer review. Did they have any changes or modifications or anything like that?
Yeah, I think Niles had discussed that at the beginning. I can just go over it again.
I may have missed that. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I can go through it if you want, Trish.
Yeah, sure, you can.
Okay. So there were very minor changes. There were a couple flags that were missing at the 1 series that were just basically rehung. And then there were flags that were added off-site in the 3 series. If you see the flags that were there, the 3-101, the 3-111 were on the previous plan. The ones that were added were 3-92 to 3-100. Even though those were off-site, the consultant wanted them added in order to show the buffer zone that impacted the property. Although it wasn't anything that's on our property, we did want it shown, so we did show that, and that was it. I think other than that, his report said that he agreed with all the lines and that he did transect through the remaining of the property and didn't find any other wetland resource areas.
Okay, great. Then that's what we like to hear. And no other questions?
Thank you, Adam. Diane?
No question.
Are there any members of the public that wish to talk about 308 Old Center Street? And just please keep in mind, if there are members of the public that we are talking specifically about the wetland line tonight, so it's before us. Anyone? Okay. Just give it another minute for everybody's trying to unmute themselves. Okay, not hearing or seeing anyone. What is the wish of the commission? Do we need more information, or are we ready to, read?
Madam Chair?
Okay.
I'd like to close the hearing and issue.
Sorry.
Excuse me?
It's not a hearing. It's,
okay.
Just the issue, the ORAD, or
okay.
River Resource
Okay.
Reclamation. Sorry.
So I would make a motion, I would make a motion to issue the ORAD for 308 Old Center Street, Old Beach Street Realty Trust, Old Beach Street Investments, SE number 2201471, in conjunction with the signatures are made in accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 110G, and pursuant to the Middleborough Conservation Commission electronic signatures authorization vote dated May 1st, 2020, 52695, page 344, at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ed. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Adam. Roll call vote. Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately?
Aye.
And Medeiros?
Aye.
Melissa Dumont?
Aye.
Nancy Opers?
Aye.
Adam Giraldi?
Aye.
Diane Stewart?
Aye.
Okay, so we're unanimous. Issue the ORAD. And just want to thank the owner and Niles for working with us on the environmental report and also for coming tonight. Next step will be to contact the office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, good night.
Thanks. Okay. What do we have next? So we have continuation of notice of intent for 681 Wareham Street. Yes. Or are we doing this one, Tricia?
I think Phyllis was going to talk. Go ahead.
Oh, Phyllis? Okay, great.
I'm trying.
Hello?
Right, so this opened up back in November last year. continued to March 4th, continued to May 20th. The engineer had requested that it be continued to June 3rd. It was discussed, and then Tricia did speak to the engineer because the peer review the quote for the peer review has expired. So you're going to need to do a vote for a new peer review quote. And then they can move forward with that.
Madam Chair?
Diane?
Why have we been continuing this out for so long? That's like 6 months, right?
Yeah, it's been.
Oh, is somebody saying hello?
Yeah, this is Chuck Adler from 15 Maple Road. I was trying to speak like 2 minutes ago when you were talking about 308 Center Street, but I was unable to. You guys couldn't hear me, so I just came back into the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. We've finished that item and we can't take any further comment on it. If they do any sort of development whatsoever on that property, they will likely need to come back to us to get.
So, Mr. Adler, so they're going to be filing an after-the-fact notice of intent for the impact they had in the wetlands to do a restoration. And if they're doing any other proposed work within 100 feet of that wetland, and that you'll get notified again during that process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can we just explain to Mr. Adler what happened, just so he's aware that we, all we did tonight was certify where the wetland line was.
Yeah.
The wetland line. Our peer reviewer agreed with the environmental or wetland scientist that went out for the property owner. They basically agreed with where the line was, and what we've done is just certify where that line is. So any actual work to be proposed, as Tricia said, the work with the any impact that they had from for a notice of intent, that's going to be forthcoming. But we haven't approved anything or anything like that. So it's just all that we've done is any work, I should say. All we've done is just certify that we agree where the wetland line is.
Okay, great. So when you have when you have the meeting about them restoring the part that they tore up, like I'm going to get notified again about that?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties.
No, that's my fault. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, where were we? I think Diane had asked why this one keeps getting continued.
Yep. This started, if Trish wants to fill it in, but this started with an enforcement order. The commission's been out there several times. Tricia's been out there several times. It was decided to have peer review done. We got the quote for the peer review, and we were waiting for the check from the applicant who has personal issues going on, so we did not receive the check. The quote has expired, so you need to get a new quote for peer review if you choose to do that. I think that's all I have.
If we get a new quote for a peer review, how long does that peer review quote last?
Usually 30 days.
Okay, so
it'll say it in his paperwork, whoever you pick.
Ed?
And I know I'm going out of order here, but I think this is a special case. I think that them having personal issues does make a difference, supposedly for them getting money to do anything. I hate to keep extending them, except they have done everything, and I'll defer to Trish for this, but I think they've done everything we've asked. They have nothing in that area anymore. They've pulled everything out. As long as they agree to stay out of that area and keep us apprised of their, or the agent of their issues and when they hope to have it done, I don't think we should, keep continuing it and getting peer reviews and then having it no good because they don't have the money to do it. As long as they're agreeing to do what we ask, I understand it may take them 6 months, but as long as they're doing nothing in there, I don't think that they're doing any more harm than they've already done. So I guess it's very different than the usual one. They have done what we've asked, and we probably asked a little more than we generally could have, but I think to just keep it open and keep extending it is wasting our time.
I'd like to speak on this, Madam Chair.
So would I, actually. This one, I think we've been more than fair with. It's been a long amount of time, and it's not the first property that this particular owner has had issues on. I think it's like the third. So it's getting a little frustrating. I understand that people go through hard times, but they also have the money to do the development in the first place. But Tricia, if you want to talk now.
Yeah, so, yes, this happened, this was an enforcement action because the gentleman had cut some vegetation back there last year, and I had talked with him about that. He said he was going to seed, he was going to grass the area. There was an old house that had been demolished there as well, and I checked with him again last summer, and I drove by there, and he had put, looks like reclaimed asphalt and fill in that whole area. So part of the reason why for the peer review is not to say that his wetland scientist is not correct, but we also need to look at, were wetlands filled? We need to really determine that by looking at the soil underneath. There are several trees that are probably going to die because you can tell that fill has been put, over their root systems, at least a foot or more. So I don't think the peer review is a waste, and I don't think that it's a waste to continue it on because we need to hold people accountable for their actions. And yes, he's been cooperative thus far as far as removing containers and vehicles off of that property out of the buffer zone. But, going forward, we need to know what the status is. We can't just forget about this. Thank you.
I mean, it was a significant amount of fill, from what we can tell.
Madam Chair?
We got Ed and Adam at the same time.
Go ahead, Adam. I'll defer to Adam. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I just was going to just reiterate kind of that I agree with what's being said about this. This is, I understand financial hardships for people and circumstances. It's unfortunate, but this isn't a situation where no damage was done to a wetland or any of the resource. This is a circumstance where it was, and the delays are just causing potential additional damage that could be mitigated and saved in the meantime by action. And if we just drop it, I don't want to set that precedent, and I don't think that that's the appropriate action either. I think that, I don't know if there's any additional enforcement that we can provide, but it has been a long time. I think it warrants enforcement of additional action, and I wouldn't want to just drop it just because they're financially unable to right now. I know it's not the same, but in the Mass DEP world for 21J and MCP sites, things like that, you have to prove that you're financially ineligible. You can't just claim that you're financially ineligible. There has to be actual proof, and there's a program to go through that. And I don't know with wetlands if it's the same thing, but given that there was potential wetland filling, which is why we need the peer review, I don't think it's appropriate to just back off on this due to a claim of financial hardship. And I'm not saying that they don't have that. I'm just saying that certain things do need to be proven, and if we can encourage or move this along somehow, we're all ears and we're happy to work with anybody. I think we've proven that with our track record, but I would like to see this continue to be advanced. I do appreciate that they've worked with us as far as doing the moving things out of the buffer zone and all that other stuff that we've asked them. That stuff is appreciated, but there's, I guess, a track record of this, and we need there to be some resolution on this particular site.
Also, if he has the equipment to bring that material in, which I know he has the equipment, he can remove it as well.
Madam Chair? I had no intention at all of ever dropping this. had no intention that he shouldn't have to take out material that he put in, had no intention of ever thinking that he shouldn't do it. The problem, I believe, and if there is, we should steer him to that course. If there is in the Wetlands Protection Act, and I don't know of any, maybe there is, something showing a financial hardship, whether he can or can't, I guess I'd love to see that there is some paperwork to do that. But I guess he probably has the machinery to take it out, but we have in essence barred him from going in there to do anything until such time as we do get a peer review. And, my understanding, as little as I know about it, is that they don't have the money for the peer review for one reason or another. So if there is a financial hardship paperwork that he can do, at least we can find out whether he has a financial hardship. That was my only intention. I don't want him to go in there with machines and rip it out and make even more mess than he's already made. I want it done right. I want a peer review done, and I want, in order to do a peer review, I think that you end up having the engineer, you're having peer review. It costs a fair amount of money. If he gives us a timeline and or there's something in DEP that we can make sure that it is a true financial hardship, I'd love to see that. But I have no intention of dropping it. I want it done right. I don't want him to go in there and just tear it apart and do what he wants to do. I want peer review. I want the engineers. I want plans. I'm thinking it might cost him anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 before he steps back on the property to do anything because of what's got to be done. So, and he does have a track record, and that's why I'm not willing to let him in there, is because his track record shows that he does what he wants anyway. So until we have complete plans, we have correct plans, he sends his people out, we send our people out, we get peer review, we get engineered plans, we get plans accepted. I don't think it's feasible for him to go in there, but certainly if, like Adam says, there is a financial hardship review by someone, I'd like to see that done by the applicant and give us a timeline on when he thinks it's going to be straightened out. That's it.
Hey, Ed, that's a very good point that we really don't want him in there just scraping it up either. Is there any kind of paperwork like that, Mr. Phyllis, that you know about, or do you have any say there?
I don't think that they have a program under the Wetlands Protection Act, but maybe Phyllis knows of something.
No, I've never heard of it. I mean, I'll look into it, but I've never seen it or heard of it.
No, it's not and it's unfortunate because I think there should be something like that. Like if people need a septic system, right? They have betterment programs through Title V, which is very helpful, obviously. And, like Adam said, they have something for, cleanups. So I think there should be something. So maybe that's a letter to the state legislature.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Sure.
I guess if we find out they don't, and I understand it has to be somewhat public record, but maybe if we get a explanation from the applicant or the engineer explaining that they believe they may be ready in 30 days or 60 days. I just hate to have them keep coming, us sending out for peer review, have the guy review it, waste our time, the peer review people's time, and everybody's time, and then him say, I'm in no different, and I knew I wasn't going to be any different for 6 months. That's what I was suggesting, is that if he gave us a timeline, prove somewhat that he does have a problem with, finances, because my understanding is it was a locked account that, money couldn't be expended from it. So I guess that's what I'm saying is, if he could if there's no form and that he can prove to us, I'd rather not keep continuing month to month and have him on the agenda. If he thinks he's going to be ready in 6 months, as long as he agrees to stay off the property, I believe that, just my belief is that there was probably a lot of trees that were cut already and are underneath the fill. The stumps would be underneath the fill. The trees that are left, I don't think we have jurisdiction to make them pull the trees or the fill out from around those trees. It's in the 100-foot buffer, but it certainly, I don't think there's any trees left that are in the 25-foot buffer. So I understand the concern, and it's just, he did what he did, and I think we need to get him to do it right if he's gonna redo it. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how else, we've gone through this, and to try to force him to do it is gonna do nothing but aggravate us, and he's then showed us that he's agreeing to do it correctly. He just doesn't have the finances at this point. I'd much rather have that than try to do a court case and find out we're just back to where we started from anyway.
Technically anything he did in the buffer zone without a permit, we can make him remove. That's within our rights.
Yep.
That being said, if this were a typical violation and we had a non-helpful or missing a word here, but what would be our next step if we had a enforcement order that was ignored, for example? Would we go to DEP?
What was that question?
So what would be our next course of action?
Well, so you could continue it to the 3rd, and then, in between the next 2 weeks, we get some kind of letter, like Ed said, on what their status is, and, then continue them out for whatever, 6 months or something, or 3 months, if they think they're going to be ready at that particular time. And
so that's one option.
yeah.
What would, say we had someone that ignored it, could we go to DEP? Would that be the next step?
Well, yes, we would notify DEP, yes.
So our choices are to give them more time and to hopefully have some sort of backup or reasoning to give them more time, or we could go to DEP, or we could say, if you haven't resolved this issue by August 30th or haven't made any progress towards it, we're going to give it to DEP. Is that fair? So I'm assuming that we're going to run out of time on the enforcement order at some point, correct?
The enforcement order is only good for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, Nancy, I'm sorry. I still plan to go through everybody.
Oh, sorry, I can wait too, but
no, you can go right now.
Phyllis, there's an email in Dropbox from the engineer from May 11th, but I think it's missing some of the text. It just says he just says, I figured you had it under control, but wanted to respond as requested. Keep me informed. I don't know what he's referring to. Is the engineer given any information in that email chain?
Because he thought that it was continued to June 3rd, but I had in my notes that it was from tonight for May 20th.
No, he never said if he was going to come tonight or update us tonight.
No, he wasn't planning tonight, because when I went back, it was June 3rd that the commission had, given him to figure out what they were going to do. So, sorry, I thought I put the whole thing in there.
So we can just, so in theory, we should wait till June 3rd because he's expecting to come June 3rd.
The engineer is, yes. Well, he's hoping to get some answers from his client, but
no guarantee he's going to come on June 3rd.
Right, there's nothing, he hasn't been able to get any yet for a while.
Madam Chair, if I could ask a couple questions.
Go ahead, Adam.
First question is, would it make sense for us to send a letter between now and the June 3rd meeting to just say that we anticipate and expect them to meet them and meet us or have a discussion at minimum with us at that point? something is better than nothing. Like all we're getting right now is just nothing. And the second question I had is, what was the cost of the peer review?
I can,
In Dropbox, I put like a separate folder with everything in it in Dropbox. I think, Tricia, it's in the hard file too you have.
Madam Chair? If I may, to Adam's question, when we did the on-site, it's really a mess out there. We couldn't even determine a line or whether the line was correct. He filled up to the neighbor's property and it needs to be delineated on the neighbor's property. He actually is on the neighbor's property in some spots. So I guess I don't think this is a typical peer review. I think that even after we do a peer review, it's going to be his wetland scientists debating with our peer review people. They may have to do borings or send a machine out to dig because it certainly looks like he's in the 25-foot no-touching areas. I mean, it's a mess, and there's no question in my mind that he needs to do something. But the last time I was in, and I wasn't on the board, but I watched it at the time, he goes in and makes more of a mess, and he hasn't done it this time. My hope is that maybe he won't do that. I guess I really would like, a fair amount of engineering and wetland scientists working together before he goes in and does anything, because I don't necessarily think it will be done correct unless we do that with detailed sets of plans. In my understanding, and I believe this came through from the first continuance they asked, was that the accounts had got locked for a reason that they stated, but I don't want to state that. And so I guess I think they need to come to us and give us proof, whether it be, how they want to do it and whether we accept it. But, I'm certainly not saying that it doesn't need to be done. I guess I don't want them to do it the cheap way and the wrong way. It's going to be expensive to do it the correct way, and I want it done the correct way because I've seen how else you can do it. So that's my only opinion. And my opinion would be, if we want to do something, make sure that he is notified that he has to come in June 3rd and talk to us and tell us his problems, and he has to give it to us in writing so that it isn't only said at a meeting, that either an email would be fine or a letter. But, he's got to give us some proof that he does have a financial hardship or we go another route. That's it.
okay. Madam Chair, can I just go over the peer reviews?
Sure.
Okay, so there were 2 peer review quotes that we received. One was from Lucas Environmental, and that was on December 22nd, 2020, and that was for $950. The second one was from Ecosystem Solutions on December 10th, 2020, and that was for $2,100.
Have we chosen one?
I don't believe we
No.
did, no.
No, you didn't.
They're expired now anyway,
Right.
so.
No, I know. I'm just trying to get a flavor of what the peer review cost was, because from the peer review cost, you can estimate total cost. Not exact, but you get it in the ballpark. That doesn't sound to me like a $30,000 project. Especially if the property owner has the heavy equipment to do the work. I work with contractors and I work with clients that have their own heavy equipment and they do their own soil excavations on sites that they need to when they bring it in, and the cost is much less than having to hire a subcontractor with bringing in their own equipment. I think in general, this has already been delayed 6 months. I mean, if we got peer review quotes in December, I mean, this is at least 6 months that this is going on. I'm not inclined to keep pushing it off. I think June 3rd meeting, I unfortunately won't be here, but June 3rd meeting, they should come before us with something. And if they don't even come before us with anything, then I think at that point we hand it off to DEP. I just don't think there's any benefit in us waiting any further, and waiting 6 months to see if they're in a better financial condition just further allows additional impact to the wetland, to the resource, and Mass DEP may have a solution. They may decide that they want to evaluate the financial capability of the property owner themselves, and whether they decide to fund it themselves. They may decide that it's worthwhile, and I've seen lots of different things happen from Mass DEP. So, but going on 6+ months, I don't see. It's not my recommendation that we further this. I think June 3rd, if they're not coming before us with something, then we notify DEP. And I would be in favor of also submitting a letter that says such, that if they don't come before us with something, an explanation or a plan or a check or something for a peer review or guarantee, I don't know what exactly, it's up to our discussion, but that would be my vote. That would be my position.
I think I'd be willing to give them a month if we're gonna do it that way, or maybe like a little bit longer. That seems like a fair course of action to me. We're just asking them to provide us a reasonable update, some documentation by that date, or come see us. If not, then we're going to take the next course of action. That being said, there are 3 people that we haven't heard from in this discussion that I would really like to get to. Peter? If you're still there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I was afraid you were going to ask me first. Yeah, send them a strongly worded letter for show up next month when we go to DEP. Well, let's, to use the old phrase, should have get off the pot.
Okay. Is that it, Peter?
You want more?
Yeah. Melissa.
I just can't stop laughing. I agree with what Adam said, and this one's hard because you you see the destruction that he's caused, covering those trees up with the fill. They're probably gonna die. He's been problematic in the past, but at the same time he's struggling, and continuing it is not getting us anywhere. I think I agree with Peter and Adam and Ed, giving him a letter asking him to come either June 3rd or sometime in the month of June to just come and explain himself, give us some kind of timeline when he's going to be able to attend to this, because right now I think he's just dropping the ball and hoping it disappears. And so we can't we can't just let him go on his merry way. We've been more than accommodating. It's been at least half a year. So I think a letter should go to him asking him to attend one of these meetings and explain himself.
Thank you, Melissa. Diane.
Is the enforcement order recorded at the registry?
That's also a tricky question.
Is the enforcement order recorded?
Does that get recorded anywhere?
That doesn't happen. No, that doesn't happen.
So if they were going to try to sell the property, a potential buyer would not necessarily know that there's an issue?
Yeah, they're not required, we're not required to record the enforcement orders. It's actually not, not a good idea. But usually when people are looking at properties, a lot of times they do call us or they come in. And then that's our opportunity to give them a history.
But they're not required to, so theoretically he could sell this and it would be the next owner's problem?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, sorry Diane, I didn't mean
No, I was reading recently about an issue in Norton that the Conservation Commission is having, and that was about an enforcement order that was issued in the 80s that they're still trying to resolve. But so I didn't know if those typically get recorded or not. And just, I don't know what sort of issues he's having. I don't know if Ed knows more. He seems to know a little bit more. Unless it's just stuff from November that I just don't remember because it was so long ago. But if it is something where they might be selling the property to take care of their money issues, I would be concerned that this is not going to get taken care of. So I wanted to know about that. And then I wanted to make sure that the enforcement order is addressed to the correct person. It says it's addressed to Floyd Andrews of Cheryl Andrews Realty, but that person is not on like the property, I don't think, as an owner.
That's who the assessors had at that particular time. Why, who's on it now?
Okay. I looked up the Cheryl Andrews Realty LLC, and it's just Cheryl Andrews that's on there. So I just want to make sure if we have the enforcement order, it's correct, so they don't have some sort of technicality they can appeal it on.
When it was issued, that was who the owner was.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I don't think that we should be asking for more peer reviews. I don't want people to, more quotes. I don't want these people that I think are all small businesses to be wasting more time putting more quotes in that he's not going to pay for at this point. But I would agree that we can give him another month or so. And then just in the letter, I would put in there that if he doesn't appear and give us some information at that hearing, the commission may take a vote on his notice of intent. And I guess separately from that, we would send the enforcement order to DEP at that point. But Tricia, in your opinion, do you think this enforcement order is something DEP would actually do anything about in a timely manner? Do you think it's severe enough?
I don't know about timely manner, but I do know that, if we're having difficulty with it, that they would get involved to at least look at it. I know I've already had the DP look at it from a standpoint of, those containers possibly having materials in there that would be unsafe. And they didn't see that they were filled with anything. So.
Okay. Because I agree with Ed. I don't think that he should be going out there and doing stuff until we have a very clear and approved plan for work.
Right.
But at the same time,
I wasn't suggesting that.
No.
I was just suggesting that, he has the ability, once he gets approvals, to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also, you shouldn't just let it sit there because it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. So, it's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Helps when you unmute yourself. Okay, thank you, Diane. Did I miss anybody who didn't get a chance to speak? Is there anybody from the public who wants to talk about this one, 61? Tricia, want to weigh in at all? Anybody before we? I think we should make a motion to send that letter.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
I'd make a motion to send them a letter, just to be sure, and I guess to Phyllis. So this is actually continued to June 3rd anyway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd make a motion to send them a strongly worded letter stating that they have to come in, whether it be them personally or their engineer, and give us the reason they have not gone forward and some backup on it. And that if they don't, we'd have to proceed with DEP. But I think the June 3rd date, there's no use, and it's what I don't want to keep wasting our time. So to give them a month, we're going to have to continue it at the June 3rd meeting to another meeting. I say, if they can't do it in 2 weeks, they're not going to do it in a month. So my opinion is just send the letter, get them in on June 3rd, and let's see what their problem is. So I'd say send them a letter and get them in here.
Second, if that was a motion.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
I'm going to call
That was
it
a
a
motion.
motion.
Yep.
I'm going to call it Diane said a second. Let's do a roll call vote. Jesse Jones, aye. Peter Gately.
Aye.
Linda Dearest.
Aye.
Melissa Dumont,
A strongly worded aye.
God, you're killing me tonight. Nancy Olkers,
Before I say aye, just to clarify, does that letter automatically go to the engineer and the property owner? So
Yeah,
the
they'll be
engineer.
copied.
Okay.
They'll all be copied, yeah.
Okay. Aye.
And send certified.
Adam Barabi,
Aye.
Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Okay, so we're unanimous on a strongly worded letter. Okay, I think that was a pretty good conversation on that. Anyone want to make a motion to continue to June 3rd?
It's already continued? It's already on the June 3rd. isn't it?
So do we need to,
It was in the motion, I believe it was in Diane's motion, to come
Ed
to
made the
the,
motion.
or not really continue, but she said to come to the,
Ed made the motion.
oh,
Yep, that's fine. It was in the motion, because it is already continued June 3rd, so we just want to make sure that they understand that June 3rd is kind of a drop dead date for us.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
I think we're all set there.
sorry about that.
Okay, so, next. Okay, continuation of notice of intent for 0 Wareham Street.
Madam Chair?
Ed?
Ed Maderas, I'm recusing myself from the next two. With a little luck, I'll be back on, but I'm not sure. I'm going to get back to work for a few minutes, so, but I'll probably hang on. Okay, thank you.
I'll say your name really loudly when we're done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so 0 Wareham Street, and please let the record show that Ed Maderas has recused himself from 0 Wareham Street and 535. Okay, so looks like we have some quotes for peer review.
Yes, we received 2 quotes. One was from Lucas Environmental, and it's for $1,550. And the other one was from Brad Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration for $1,500. And this is to peer review the wetland line and the impact on the wetlands at the property.
Looks like we might have somebody on to talk about this one.
For the record, it's Julie Goodwin with Prime Engineering.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. Yeah, I'm just here to see what the quotes are. Mr. Jackson is eager to move forward. He knows that it's probably not going to be able to, he's probably not going to be able to make this right this season, probably in the fall. But as soon as we know the amount, he is ready to drop off the check and have this line reviewed.
Great. Instead of going through people one by one, does any member of the commission have any questions about any of these proposals, or any arguments in favor or not in favor of any specific one? Everybody all at once. Melissa?
I mean, seen Lucas before. I've never seen the other one. Environmental Consulting Restoration.
No, he,
Yeah. Sorry, Tricia, you can go.
so he used to work for BSC Group years ago, and for a while he was not doing peer reviews. He was too busy with his regular work. He does not have a conflict with this one, so he said that he would give us a quote. I've just been having trouble. It's like I have the 2 that I usually get quotes from, and getting a third, it's just been difficult trying to find a third person. So I was supposed to get a quote from Ecosystems as well, but I did not receive that today. Maybe it's in my inbox. You know, it'll be there in the morning, but these are the 2 that we have currently for tonight. And just also to note, we did get peer reviews for the next one, which is 535 Wareham Street, that are separate from this. But keep in mind, and it's the same 2 consultants as well.
maybe we
So
pick
you
one for
might
one
want
and
to
one
pick
for the
one
other.
for both, the same one, just as for consistency.
Tricia, are you happy with, the environmental consulting restoration review?
I have worked with him on other projects where he's been the consultant. He's done some, oversight of wetland replications in a couple places in town. And his wetland lines are generally very accurate. So, just from that perspective, where he's been the consultant and I've reviewed him, I have confidence in his ability.
I mean, these ones are very, very close. We technically shouldn't be making decisions. We should be making them based on each individual site, but with the knowledge that there's the same two choices for the next one. Anybody have a preference which one we choose, or?
Madam Chair, I'd be inclined to give it to the ECR company.
Okay, is that a motion, Melissa?
I make a motion to, accept the peer review from Environmental Consulting Restoration LLC.
Yep, so I have a motion by Melissa. Do I have a second?
Second, Nancy.
Oh, I think that was Nancy. I was like, so close tonight. Motion by Melissa, second by Nancy. Roll call vote. Peter Gately?
Aye.
No Ed. What's not?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
Adam Giraldi?
Aye.
And Diane Stewart. Still here, Diane? Okay, we're going to call that an abstain from Diane on this one. So we have a amount for peer review that Ms. Goodwin can report back to her client. So that's all the business we have for 0 Wareham Street tonight, I believe. Correct, Tricia? Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion to continue this to June, what are we thinking, June 3rd or June 17th? June 17th, probably?
I would give them, yeah,
Proceed,
like a month.
please.
Okay. So let's go for the 17th. Motion by someone? Continue.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Peter. Do we have a second?
Second, Melissa.
Second by Melissa. Roll call vote. Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately?
Aye.
Melissa Dumont?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
Adam Giraldi?
Aye.
Diane, are you back? No, Diane, so, we will count that as an abstention. So, we will talk about this again, possibly June 17th. Okay. And that meeting will likely be in person, truly. So, okay. So, next we have 535 Wareham Street, and same thing with peer review quotes, correct?
Yes, let me just look at them again, just to make sure. So, Lucas Environmental, and this was also $1,550 for 535 Wareham Street. And the quote from ECR, Brad Holmes, is for $2,000.
Anybody have any questions about any of these proposals? Any desire whatsoever to pick one or the other? Need a couple minutes to look at them again.
Madam Chair,
Melissa?
make a motion to approve the Environmental Consulting and Restoration LLC peer review for we at 535 Wareham Street. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Melissa. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna call that Peter this time. Motion by Melissa, second by Peter. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately.
Aye.
Emma Dearest.
Recuse.
Oh, recuse, thank you, sorry. Melissa Fremont.
Aye.
Nancy Okers.
Aye.
Adam Giraldi.
Aye.
Diane, are you back?
Yep, aye.
Okay, so we have peer reviews. I'm assuming we also want to continue this one out probably till the 17th. Anyone want to make a motion for that effect? Motion
Second.
second by Diane. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately.
Aye.
Melissa Fremont.
Aye.
Nancy Okers.
Aye.
Adam Giraldi.
Aye.
Diane Stewart.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll talk about this again on June 17th. So, if we go, we have, I think we said we did not need to do the certificate of compliance for 49 Plymouth Street, correct? It's not ready yet?
Correct.
Okay. So, and we don't need a vote on that, right?
No.
So back to senior clerk items. Where did we leave off the list?
You're on mute.
Oh,
Sorry, I had to find the right pile. All right, so we did minutes. We do not have any group request for group use for tonight. So we're up to office forms and procedures. I did two, they're all in Dropbox, but I'll just go through them real quick for you. So I just did two reappointment letters to the town manager for Nancy and for Adam that you voted on at the last meeting. I sent him an email. I haven't heard back yet. Just ask him, where it stands, that we want to get this moving along so we can do our elections and, not have any quorum issues down the road, because we have quite a bit. So hopefully I'll hear from him soon and I can just send an email to everybody. Next I have, sorry. Oh, so this is just an FYI, when we did the new agenda and voted on at the last meeting, for tonight's agenda, I just had one comment from Rich Rayum asking why there wasn't any times next to the continuations. And I told him just to, calculate it down 15 minutes or so for like each hearing. So he was the only one that had any comments about the new agenda. In Dropbox, it's a letter memorandum from Plymouth County Mosquito Control Project, and they're talking about applications, and I'd like to put this on the commission's website for the public's information. If you want to look at it quickly, it's basically notification of mosquito. It's in Dropbox under, office forms and procedures, Nancy. If anybody wants to see it.
Madam Chair?
Melissa?
I have a question. I didn't look at this yet, but is there also information on how to opt out of mosquito?
There is. I'm not sure if it's on this one. Let's see.
I'm thinking if we put up this information, we should also put up the alternative of opting out as well, because I am one that has opted out myself.
Okay. It's not on this email. It's not on this memo. I will find it though, because I know I saw something that I believe it went to the board. It might be on there already. It went to the Board of Selectmen.
I think that's about it, and I can send it to you too. I think that's where I saw it.
It's right here, Melissa.
Oh, yep, there it
Blue
is.
property, there's the link.
Oh, yeah, there. Yeah.
Yep, that's the one I filled out. I would like to see that on there as well, just for folks like me who like to keep everything organic. Okay.
That's a very good thing to note, Melissa, thank you. And I think that's good to put it on our website so people have the information for in the layout.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, so the the new policy that was approved on May 6th went to the website. Some of the engineers have received it. I haven't had any comments back. Tricia and I are keeping a copy of it on the half door on the counter there for people to review it before they actually turn something in, just so they can like look at it one more time before they turn in and Tricia becomes a school teacher. Putting it nicely. So that's all set for now.
I did notice the plans were a little bit better tonight. I'm not sure if that is all in timing with the weather, but
yeah, I don't know. So your new hearings tonight were, I think they were all the same engineer. He's always been really good. You know, he really has. He's worked with us, and we haven't had any issues with his plans, with his submits. The meeting schedule for 2021, I'm requesting a change. So for the June 17th meeting, the cutoff date was, I had done this and not, looked back, but it's for May 31st, which is Memorial Day. The office is closed. So I'd like to change that to Friday, May 28th. Usually when it's a holiday weekend and Monday, if I know ahead of time, I let people know I need it, by Friday anyway, but just in case, I'd like to officially put that on here. So that people don't come in on Tuesday and say, well, you were closed on Monday, I didn't know, and I thought you could do it. No, not anymore.
does anyone want to make a motion to amend the schedule for that team?
So moved, Nancy.
Motion by Nancy, do we have a second?
Melissa, second.
Second by Melissa. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately?
Aye.
I think Ed is completely off now. So, Melissa Dumont?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
Hans Garaldi?
Aye.
And Diane Stewart?
Aye.
Okay, so we're all set. New schedule.
Perfect, thank you. I'll get that done tomorrow, Katie, and I'll send it to you to get put on the website, please. And I'll post it on the door and everything also. It doesn't change your meeting, it's just changing when you need to submit by. Next I have, conservation lands. So I have some things for Pratt Farm, and I know Tricia has some things for the other properties. So I believe it's in the folder that said stewardship. I'm just going to go through them because I'm not sure which order it is in there. So a tree came down. Tricia sent an email over to me asking to get it taken care of. It was on one of the paths out back. I believe everyone was copied on that. I reached out to the stewardship group. I heard back from Paul. He went out there. He went out there and he took the tree down. It's all cut up. There's some couple pictures in there too that'll show you that he did cut them up on the, I believe it says May 18th. Thought he did it before that, but.
Yeah, my husband just saw it, I think yesterday. He was out there. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Paul, if he's watching.
Once again, he comes to the rescue.
Yeah, he's great.
Paul also, he helps us out, works on the tractor out there for the Pratt Farm. So he did work on the tractor for this year. He may have to go back in and out, but he filled up the fuel and he sharpened the blades. And other than that, it's running pretty good. Patty, who goes out and does, another steward, goes out and does the mowing out there. She's been out there once this year so far. Tractor. So she'd gone out there and she couldn't get into Sachem Street because of the, Allen and Majors, when they did their survey, they put a stake between the gate and the opening, so she couldn't get the tractor in that way. The gate itself, they put a bolt on it, someone took the lock off. That's been taken care of, and she was gonna, I haven't talked to her today, so she was planning to get out there this week once the gate was open, which it is. She knew last week, so she was planning to go there this week. I just haven't heard yet back if she has had the chance. But she does get out there and do the mowing. When she was out there, the 11th, and we were talking on the phone, she was talking about the mowing and everything in the front and then the bowl and all that. And went around to try to give me sage and couldn't, went back, and there was a porta potty placed in front of, by the street, right at the parking area. So I put a call into Chris Peck because it was open and the public were using it. So I called Chris Peck at the DPW, and he sent somebody right out to put a zip tie on it so no one could use it. It's placed there for the workers for the sidewalk, that grant project, which was starting, I believe it's next week. I'm not positive.
No, they've been out there.
They have been out there. Okay, so I'm a week behind, so it's this week. Yeah, so, you know, thanks, Chris, for that, because that was, yeah, that wouldn't have been good. And I think that might be all I had for Pratt Farm. The tree, the porta potty, the gate, keys. Thank you, Peter. Peter went out and got the new chain for us for by the barn. It's a yellow chain. I don't know if anyone has seen it yet, but that's been put in place so people won't miss it this time. And I think that's all I have for.
Thank you, Peter, and please let the stewardship group know how much we appreciate them and that they're really coming through for us.
Yeah, we're still trying to get a cleanup day too, so now that the state is starting to open things up, hopefully we can get something in before it starts to get too hot out there.
Yeah.
But it's been pretty good out there. It hasn't been a lot of trash like in past years because there's so much public out there. Some people are picking up. I haven't received any calls or emails about what's the word I want to say? I'll say it, dog poop, like in the bags that are thrown all over the place. So
that was actually the roast crazy. It's actually worse when you bag it up and leave it than just leave it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm advocating people leave poop anywhere.
Yeah, they've thrown it in trees and everything, though. It's been nasty. But anyway.
I would think that in trail planning, the more eyes you have out there, the less people are going to do something because somebody's going to see them do it.
Right. Alrighty, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Okay. The rest of the conservation land district.
Yep. So actually, I got an email from Garrett Bingamas. I was just checking up on his bridge accessibility project for the footbridges, and he sent me an email on the 14th, and he said, sorry again for the delay. I've been swamped with work for the past few months, but it is starting to clear up now. I'm still intending to do that work. However, while planning, I wasn't sure what type of design you would prefer. Would a stone and dirt ramp be preferable, or a wooden be better? So he's asking you guys. I was envisioning wood, but
I think wood would be more consistent and probably less likely to erode, but anybody else wants to weigh on that, please do so. Peter?
Nancy's going to agree with me on this one. Suspension bridge.
This is just a ramp to the bridge.
These are for all the other little footbridges around the property.
So what's your point?
Do you want a suspension bridge
we want
to
them
the
for
bridge?
all, yeah, okay.
Hey, it's been a conversation we've been having, so.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the bridges are wood too, so like a consistent surface.
All right, so I'll let him know to do wood.
And did you have a accessibility weigh in on that?
Nope, I would agree with the wood. I think it's tough. A lot of people use the crushed stone in the dirt, and it just requires a lot of maintenance because then people walk on it and it falls away, and then you have that lip. And so if we don't have people going out there regularly to pack it back down, it's an issue. So if they could do the wood and get it right down into the trail a little bit, that would be helpful.
Okay, so the next thing is, I don't know, does anybody have any other statements on that?
I say wood as well.
Melissa?
The wood is what I would prefer as well.
Okay, cool. So, Peter, I'm going to make you a co-host as well, if you're ready, about your bridge project.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, how do I do this?
Okay, so I made you co-host, and if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's all those tabs. It's like security, participants, share screen. Do you see that? So you're going to click on share screen.
Okay.
And then do you have it on your desktop of your computer?
It's hidden somewhere inside.
Okay, so I would open it up onto your desktop so you can see it first. And then you go, have Zoom kind of open in the corner, and then you can go to share screen.
Okay. Everybody see that?
Nope. Did you click share screen?
When you click share screen, it's going to show you a picture of all the different things your desktop has open. You got to click on the one you want it to go to and share that.
Just did that, so maybe if I push the button hard.
It knows you didn't really mean it.
In other words, nobody can see that, right?
Peter, you hit share when that pop-up comes up, and you click on the one you want. On the lower right-hand part of the screen, there's a blue button that says share. Then hit F. That should do it.
On the lower left-hand?
On the pop-up, once you select the one you want to share, on the lower right-hand part, there's a blue button that says share. Then click share.
Not there.
Okay.
No blue buttons. Oh, damn. I had a really pissed presentation for you guys, huh?
Well, you can also send it to Jackie or Nancy.
Send it to me, Peter. Send it to me because I can share it.
Okay.
Email it. Email it.
This might be a good time to bring up, in case somebody missed it in the beginning, we have one more Zoom meeting on June 3rd, and then if the state of emergency is lifted as expected on June 15th, we'll be back in person at the town hall on June 2nd. And then Peter can show us his drawings.
Bear with me a second.
And Diane, I did get a recipe for Japanese knotweed pie, so if I can figure it out, I'll try to bring that.
You can forward that recipe to me. Maybe we can get the owner of the street to give us all the knotweed before he destroys it.
Nancy, I sent it to you. Did you get it from me?
Also, just a reminder about...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Nancy, did you have one?
Phyllis, I did get your email. Peter, is it a series of pictures, just photographs?
Yes, I'm right.
Okay.
I'm just trying to fill space, so interrupt me whenever you... There we go.
Okay, can you go back a few?
I don't know. This is what I have.
The one in the middle, that one. Okay, all right. Let me get going here and make it quick after all the talking about Wareham Street. I don't want this to go on too much longer. But anyway, very quickly, this is a shot from standing in the middle of the dam. It's kind of a neat place. There's no obstruction to look at the lake, so somebody walking across this, obviously on the ADA trail. That corrugated sheet metal that you see in front, that is the dam. That is the dam. Now can you flip to, I can't see the rest of the photos there. Keep going. Nope, you're getting ahead of me. The others, bummer, it's not there. Okay. Go to the far left, please. Okay, I put my boots on and hopped into the brook and walking up towards the dam. There were no trolls under this bridge, but it was made up certainly by the briars that tore the skin off my fingers. As you can see, I shed blood for the Conservation Commission today. Next one, please. Yep, that one. This is looking into the pipe, and you can see what the problem is. It's collapsing. So something has to be done here. The whole purpose of this little dog and pony show here is to get to the point, which is I've contacted Alan Orsi of PAR Engineering. PAR, thank you. Showed him my thoughts, and he get back to me with basically, okay, then the next step is to put up a quotation for coming up with preliminary sketches, ideas, thoughts on how to pursue this, rough quotations. And I didn't want to pursue that any further without your blessings. So that was kind of a question to, hey guys, thumbs up or thumbs down to go any further with this.
I wish I had more thumbs to put up.
Anybody have any thumbs? Okay.
Anybody else have thumbs?
Or unmute and just say something, would be nice.
Awesome. I'm sorry you bled.
So was I.
I think I heard Melissa or maybe Nancy.
I just wondered, did you want to show that bridge that Alan sent along, the picture of the sample that they did in Andover?
Yes, that's in Dropbox. I just saw it a minute ago. It's on the, where the hell was it? Yeah, it's in the Dropbox under small dam.
Yeah.
Oh, Nancy, I found it.
Anyway, regardless of the spec, I give it 2 thumbs up. I think we were pretty strong support of the last time we talked about it too, but if anybody has any questions for Peter or also wants to put some thumbs up or comments.
Madam Chair,
Melissa?
do you need a motion for us to ask Peter to get quotes from PAR Corporation?
A closed or official question?
There you go, that's it.
Yes, vote to get the peer review, I mean, not the peer review quotes. Oh my God, I'm so tired. To get the park. Okay.
Anyone want to make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that Peter Gately solicit.
Well, there's a lot of static. I think Ed's back with us, but his line is very static.
It sounds like he's in a car. It sounds like he's in a car.
Maybe he's underwater with the troll. I make a motion to have Peter get a quote from PAR Review Corporation for the replacement of that bridge.
So we have a motion by Melissa. I just want to say power engineering. Pardon me.
Second, Nancy.
Second by Nancy. Roll call vote, Becky Jones. Aye. Rita Gately.
Aye.
Ed Medeiros, if you're on.
Hi.
Great.
I'll get out of the, I'm in the beer cooler doing tile, so that's what the noise is the cooler.
Oh, okay. I wish we had video for this. It would be interesting. Melissa Dumont.
Aye.
Nancy Okers.
Aye.
Adam Riley.
Aye.
Diane Stewart.
Aye.
So very enthusiastic. Go for it, Peter.
Thank you very much. Could I just take a few more minutes of your time just to prattle on just a couple more seconds here? You probably saw a picture of the bridge that Mr. Orsi sent on. That's exactly what I had in mind, something like that. Pretty straightforward, railings all over the place so the little kitties aren't going to fall off. That term, the little kitties, that's kind of what got this whole thing going. Anyway, for the kids. What I would like to do, with your permission, is rather than referring to this as the dam, I'd like to tie it into kids. And all day long I've been trying to think of some fairy tale or children's story that referenced a bridge. And the only thing I came up with was the three billy goat scruff. I was telling my daughter about this afternoon, and my little 5-year-old grandson was right beside me. He said, "Oh yeah, I know that story, Papa." And he told me the whole story. He said he had a lot of trouble because I was going to look it up so I could tell you, but now I know it. To put it very simply, the three billy goat scruff are three billy goats and a troll, and it involves a bridge, trying to get across the bridge. And the long and the short of it is, it's very like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, only the bears don't kill Goldilocks. So anyway, what I would like to do is to refer to this as the Billy Goat's Bridge project.
I like that better than the dam.
I kind of thought you might.
Put a way more positive spin on it too. So.
Okay, and just to go a step further, Diane, you listening? We could probably have a bronze plaque made up with the story of the three billy goats, gruff, in English and Braille.
I love it.
That's a really neat idea, Peter.
So when the bridge is built, I'll be talking to you about the your source for the sign.
Can we have some little fake goats too? Underneath.
Some what?
Little fake goats underneath.
Sure. No, the trolls go underneath, the goats are on top.
Maybe you could have a goat on the, flats.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Melissa?
wouldn't we have a wood carver that wanted to do something? Could he carve some goats?
Ooh.
Maybe. I think we were waiting on some sort of information from him at one point.
Maybe a troll too.
I wanted to, but I didn't hear back, so I will attempt to reach out to him again.
Okay, thank you, fella.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of good ideas. And a really cool project.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you, Peter. So did we have more for conservation land? Are we still in conservation land?
Tricia has something regarding JMAR.
Yeah, I have a couple things. So, so JMAR, we're looking to get a kiosk, which would be really amazing. The design that is proposed is almost like triangular kiosk, so you would walk around it or whatever. And so it had 3 panels, and it's something that they've used. The Archaeological Conservancy, who's one of our partners on this property, has used this design for some of the properties they have, and the sign company that they use is in Pennsylvania, so it's not somebody local, but they have done these signs for the National Park Service, and they last a really long time. So I wanted to put it out there to give them a chance to do a design for us. So in Dropbox, there are some examples of the panels that so far myself, the Archaeological Conservancy and the Native Land Conservancy have all, had meetings about and reviewed. Still needs to be tweaked a little bit more, but that's the general idea of what they would be. I know that one of them is, it talks about the archaeology and stuff, but the two groups felt comfortable with that because most of, it's fine. It's the history of the site. And then there's an ecology panel, so talking about different wildlife and things that are there. And then a panel, kind of a welcome panel, introduction about the property, all the partners on the project and such. So, it's just another step forward to formalize the site. And I actually talked with Bill Napolitano from Serpide about funding and thought, this is kind of expensive. And he said, no, actually, this is a pretty good price for this. I want to say it's in the range of, proofs. Yeah, it's about, I think altogether, it's under $5,000, I believe. Let's see, because the artwork, the graphic designer would get $1,000, and then panels with the proofs is about $1,860. Oh, it should give me a couple prices, I'm sorry. Panels with proofs, if you do sand-filled sled frames is almost $3,000, shipping $170. Panels with proofs, traditional in-ground frames, $1,860, shipping $150. So anyways, okay, here's the cost proposal.
He was great, and Bill is, for
3418, and then $1,000 for the graphic designer to lay out all the panels. So the Taunton River Stewardship Council has some extra money right now because they had a project in Somerset that didn't go through, which is really too bad because the town of Somerset was going to buy some land along the river that would adjoin this other park that's there. For the public to use. And I think that was going to be just under $40,000 or about $40,000. And they didn't have it at town meeting, and it's not moving forward right now, which is unfortunate. But, that allows us to maybe apply for this funding for the kiosk. So I don't know how you guys felt. Like I said, the company is from down in Pennsylvania.
Just to clarify, you're applying for Taunton River Stewardship funding?
Taunton River Stewardship Council funding because this property's on the Nemasket River, which is a tributary to the Taunton.
I have to recuse myself from that.
Yes.
So, Diane, wouldn't mind taking over. Just here for a minute.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that we apply to the Taunton River Stewardship Council for funding for the JMAR kiosk.
Motion by Nancy. Is there a second?
Melissa, second.
And just a question on that, Tricia. I don't want to reinvent the wheel or anything, but is that something that maybe BP could do with students there?
That who could do?
Like Bristol Plymouth, like a sign like that.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they would be working with wood. I believe that this is going to be, they do work with metal too. This is...
Because they do graphic design and stuff over there too, don't they?
They do. Aluminum exhibit display. That's what it is. In-ground mount. Laminate panels. They do. I can always ask. I don't know
if there's a grant that will cover it, but maybe we could kind of inquire about it from EP also.
It's the
end backup.
It's the end of the school year, and I know that Ramona and Kelly, our partners, really want to see this done for the fall because they're looking to have a ceremony in the fall. So I'm not sure what EP's timeline is. I can always ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then does it have like an anti-graffiti coating on it? The one from Pennsylvania?
Don't think it says it in the quote, but I can definitely ask.
Based on some other signs on our properties, we probably need to make sure it has that, unfortunately.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
I have to go. I have to go back to the job site.
Okay. Bye, Adam.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Adam. Bye.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? Diane? Aye. Peter?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
And Melissa?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
I'm still on.
Ed, sorry.
Aye.
Ed, sorry.
That's fine.
Thank you, Ed. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No
Sorry,
problem.
failing it. First vice co-chair.
Diane, who voted, who seconded that motion?
That was Melissa.
Melissa?
Melissa, thank you, I'm sorry.
Oh, good. The wheelchair is back, so I only had one thing and I already messed it up, so.
Not the wheelchair for much longer, although I wanted to mention to Adam that before he left, so. But he's not at the next meeting. So. Okay.
So the next item is the Thrush Hollow Lot 5. It's that retreat lot that we purchased, the town purchased. I went out there yesterday with the Wildlands Trust to do the baseline document review, which is taking pictures at all the bounds. So we were able to find most of the bounds, which was great. And there is a path, you know, on the property that goes right into Pratt Farm. So there is a direct connection. So anyways, so I just needed you all to vote on the final iteration of the conservation restriction. If you need another meeting to kind of review it, that's fine too. We can put it on for next meeting, but I just wanted to kind of move this along so that we can make sure that the baseline document is around the same time that this is all signed. The Division of Conservation Services has reviewed this. Natural Heritage has reviewed this. So, and the Wildlands Trust and myself, so it's pretty ready to go. And so the commission would vote to sign it. Hopefully we would be able to sign it. I mean, if you wait till the 17th and then you're in person. And then I would have the Board of Selectmen sign it, and then it goes to the state and Wildlands Trust to get signed.
You think we could,
Madam Chair?
Ed?
I would make a motion that we sign the conservation restriction.
Motion by Ed, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately? Ed Adair's?
Aye.
Melissa Blunt?
Aye.
Nancy Okers?
Aye.
And Diane Stewart?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. So, anything else for conservation lands?
Just Tarragon Estates, of course, that's continuing on. Maggie and I are working, Maggie's from the health department, she and I are working very closely on getting the owner of number 12 to agree to put up more concrete block, to put up another concrete block in our pathway to the conservation land, because they're still driving back there. And DPW needs to access it from that area. We need to go through part of her property. They continue to, you know, move things off of there, but then some things come back. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. We also got a phone call I got a message from Joe Barry Jr., who lives at 16 Tarragon, that he saw people, someone had put compost maybe on the conservation land down in the cul-de-sac. The land down near the cul-de-sac is actually the selectmen's property because it has to do with the detention basin. And then he said something about rocks being moved. So I'm gonna go take a look at that soon.
So, I got an email about this the other day. correct that there have been 54 complaints in this one neighborhood?
Yeah, so I tallied up all the information in the file for Maggie because she needs it to go to court, or possibly to go to court. So yeah, I looked up all of the actual complaints we had via like email and phone calls that I've in the file, and site visits, so yeah.
That's a significant number of complaints. Are they from more than one person?
They were from more than one neighbor, yep. There were
Wow.
like 4 neighbors that were routinely contacting us, and then there were a couple other people that just recently have contacted us in the last couple months. So this has been going on since December of 19.
It would be nice if that would eventually get resolved and stop so that
Yes.
the office can do what you guys need to do.
Well, you know, and I just want to, if the public is watching, like, you know, when you have these incidents, it does take away from our time on other things, on positive things that can happen in the town, like, you know, working on protecting land, working on, you know, community engagement with our existing properties, you know, working with volunteers. I mean, it's just like a number of things that this hinders us on other levels, and it is frustrating. So
That's a significant number of complaints and a significant amount of staff time.
yeah,
So,
in a year and a half, yes. Yep. Okay, that's it for conservation lands. I just had a couple updates. I went to 722 Plymouth Street. I met with Mr. Brewer, who is the owner there, because there is a wetland change map that shows, you know, that there was fill near the wetlands, or possibly in the wetlands, and we talked it over, and he's going to remove all that material. I believe it was there when the previous owner owned the property, so we're just kind of like chipping away at, you know, the issues out there from the previous owner. So I'm going to meet with him in a couple weeks. The other thing was 58 Cross Street. If you remember, this was a wetland violation along the Josie's Meadow Brook that ends up in the Porche Brook. And a couple years ago, actually like 3 years ago, it was an enforcement. And 2 years ago, they ended up doing the plantings, or they ended up filing with us. And they the filing included a garage. And then that was appealed. That is under DEP's jurisdiction now, but the restoration's still under us with the enforcement order. So the plantings are there. There's a lot of growth. I mean, it's not super evident right now because there's some things still coming out, like high-bush blueberry and arrowwood and stuff. But I think it's been pretty successful. I think after, you know, this year, that'll be in good shape. So I just want to report on that.
thank you.
Yep. And before we get to mail, I just have another thing which you probably have to recuse yourself on, Jackie, but it's called a SNEP Pilot Watershed Initiative Grant. And I had a meeting with a lot of groups, the town of Lakeville, the Assawampset Pond Complex Management Team, Taunton River Watershed Alliance, Taunton River Stewardship Committee, Department of Ecological Resources, Mass DOT, Mass Audubon, the Nature Conservancy, and SERPID to apply for this grant that would assist in helping the Upper Nemasket River and the Assawampset Pond Complex. Restoration and connection of the APC to wetlands surrounding the surrounding headwaters, channel restoration to alleviate sedimentation, funds for restoration of the former DPW site into a riverside park, study of the Wareham Street Dam for potential removal, consideration of nature-based solutions for stormwater issues in the downtown Middleborough brought to light during the municipal vulnerability preparedness planning process. So some really great things. It's a 5-year grant, funding of up to $150,000 a year, and the possible project timeline of 7 years. The application deadline is next week on the 28th. and the projects would begin on October 1st. So all they're looking for is, so I'm not applying for the grant. I believe Serpid is kind of coordinating this. We just need to give a letter of support from the Middleborough Concom.
I do have to recuse myself, so I'm going to put it in very capable hands of Diane.
So you want a motion for us to send a letter of support?
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ed.
Madam Chair, Ed Medeiros, I'd make a motion to send a letter of support.
Motion by Ed, is there a second?
Melissa, second.
And second by Melissa. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Diane, aye. Ed?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
And Melissa?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane.
Welcome.
So that's it for me.
Okay. Does that cover agent stuff too, or is that the end of conservation land?
That was kind of both.
Okay, good. So next we have Conservation Commission reports. I just wanna, anybody who wasn't on in the beginning of the call, and I think we're gonna have to relay this information to Adam too. We have elections on the agenda for the next meeting. That doesn't mean if no one's comfortable at that point with the elections being that day, if like not enough people are there that we feel confident with the elections, they can go to June 17th, but just trying to get it straightened away sooner rather than later, because I can't guarantee I will be here in July or August. So just want to get everybody set up as soon as possible. I'm not really sure who's in the running, but if I can at all nudge anyone in any particular direction, I think Nancy would be a fantastic candidate. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so now that we're not doing elections now, but okay. Mailing correspondence, or if anybody else has any other commissioner reports. Ed?
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Yes, I'm just wondering if it would be appropriate. Chris Peck, the highway superintendent, does an awful lot for conservation, and we send him letters of appreciation, but I think that it might be appropriate to send the selectmen a letter stating how responsive he is to our concerns, not only at the Pratt Farm and other of those places, but even if there's a wash machine on the side of the road someplace. So I'd make a motion to send the selectmen a letter stating how appreciative we are of Chris Peck responding to probably emergencies all the time.
I love that idea. That's fantastic. Motion by Ed, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Peter. Roll call vote, Jackie Jones, very enthusiastic aye. Peter Gately.
Even more enthusiastic. Aye.
Do we have a competition? Melissa, come on.
He's helped pick up a lot of crap that the mess movers picked up, so I would very much like him to receive a letter for the walking machines on the side of the road. Aye.
Ed Medeiros?
Does that come with a pay raise? No, aye.
That's way out of our purview, Ed.
It comes with a promotion.
That's a very thoughtful idea, I like that, aye.
And Diane's here.
Also aye, and I would add that he's also very responsive when the Disability Commission has questions about stuff as well.
And Mama Chair, if I may mention something here, the sidewalk on East Main Street to the Pratt Farm, bing bang boom, it's almost in. It's incredible.
I'm gonna have to go check that out.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It kind of put the wrong thought in my mind that I see something, a concept came up, and bang, it was done. It is possible.
Yeah. Very much credit to Chris too. Great. That's a fantastic idea, Ed. So yes, very enthusiastic letter.
Yeah, Chris is awesome, and like he has so much patience too. Like just level-headed, and he just wants to get things done. It's great.
Any other commissioners have any other reports? Okay. Mail and correspondence. I don't think we technically got an official notification of this, but I did want to acknowledge what happened at Rich Oakley's vernal pool. Very terrible act by someone with some horribly misplaced anger. I believe there might still be a ward out for information for that. Anybody knows what did that? Please turn that person in. That's just a terrible thing to do to the environment, and also Rich, who's a former conservation commissioner, and his wife, just really nice people, and it's a terrible thing that happened. The only good thing I can say about it is that the police and fire and CP responded and helped out, and Rich did a lot of work cleaning that out, and there was a lot of community support. Just a crappy situation, but it was nice to see the community come together like that. I just wanted to acknowledge that, even though I don't think we have anything officially in communications.
Yeah, he did call the office, and, and as I said, I know he communicated with Adam, and he communicated with myself the day of the incident, so.
Okay, so mail and communications, what do we got in there?
So there's actually one thing I just wanted to mention, and this probably will need to come up for discussion at a future meeting. We had already done the agenda, and anyway, so Lars Carlson from BHB, he is the senior project manager working on the South Coast Rail project, and they do have an order of conditions with us for a culvert that they were putting in, which is in. He said, so there are two sets of plans that some of the project had changed. So there's a letter in there. On behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, BHB respectfully submits the attached plans in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Form 5, Section C, General Condition 14 of the Orders of Conditions issued on May 25th, 2018 for the South Coast Rail Middleborough Secondary SE 220-1355 project. They actually just got an extension permit from us as well. The updated plans reflect design advancement and refinements incorporated while preparing final contract documents for construction after filing of the notice of intent. Overall construction adjacent to wetlands has been reduced through the elimination of a previously proposed soldier pile and lagging retaining wall. No permanent or temporary impacts to jurisdictional resource areas are proposed. So they respectfully request that the commission accepts the revised drawings with a determination that changes are not significant enough to require the filing of a new notice of intent, and they would be happy to meet with the commission to review the revised plans.
Okay, I have to recuse myself from this too.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to. But.
I know.
So Diane, if you don't mind.
Yep, what are we looking for, I guess?
So I guess, we can ask that they come in and discuss a little bit more why they think that they need to do an amended order or a new notice for the changes.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Do you want a motion to have them, ask them to come in, or do you just want to tell them you want them to come in?
Yeah, if you guys want to make a motion, that's fine.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Ed Medeiros, I'd make the motion that the South Coast Rail comes in and to bring amended plans with them so that they can show us the difference of why they believe they don't need to amend it.
Motion by Ed, is there a second?
Melissa, second.
Second by Melissa. Any discussion on the motion? Is there anything that, besides, the plans that we need to ask for them to bring in the letter?
No, just.
I don't think so.
Okay. All in favor? Diane, aye. Ed?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
And Melissa?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anything else in there urgent? We're late tonight.
Madam Chair, I just had a question about, I know it's not Middleborough, it's Lakeville, but the Lakeville Hospital property project. I saw there was a letter and they had done like an environmental impact report, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, environmental impact, but I didn't get a chance to read it. I didn't know if Tricia had looked at it or
Yes.
if it's anything that we should be sending any comments in, or if you've already sent comments in, or.
I had looked at the environmental notification form way back, and we had sent a letter to the Lakeville Planning Board, and those questions got submitted to the applicant, and they responded. I did not get a direct response, but the response is in this SVIR, and so that's what I scanned and have in Dropbox. The original comments that were sent and then their response. So I don't have any other questions for them. I looked through it again.
Did it seem like all of your comments were addressed?
Yeah, they were.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about anything in mail or correspondence? Okay. One more reminder about elections, and then one more Zoom meeting as far as we know, if the state of emergency order is lifted. Thank you everybody for your many months long patience with Zoom, and thanks for the office for everything you do.
Madam Chair,
Melissa?
I have a question for Phyllis. Do you want back like these things and the plastic holders?
Yes,
please. And because I've been saving them in the clips and elastics because I reuse everything. The giant plans, I'm having a hard time shredding them all. Do you have it like a good shredder in the office that I can
bring them back to me, and I give them to mothers that have small children and they reuse them. Backsides, the paper.
Okay. I'll bring I'll bring a pile of this stuff with me when we have the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Those legally don't need to be shredded, correct?
No, they don't. No.
Technically, they're public record, so.
There was a couple of them that said please shred, so I've been doing it for all of them, but it's kind of, it's burning out my small little thing.
Yeah.
And they're not taking the shredded material from our building anymore. It recycles, we're not allowed to shred and put it in there, so. I think some people still are, but we were told not to.
Okay.
Are you ready for a motion to adjourn?
Yes, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Nancy, second by Diane. Roll call vote.
Diane.
Jackie Jones, aye. Peter Gately.
Aye.
Ed Medeiros.
Aye.
Ms. Tumo.
Aye.
Nate Gilkers.
Aye.
Adam is going down. Diane Swift.
Aye.
See everybody June 3rd. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.